Nice! This is Red Icy, who made a video called How Gears 5 Failed Its Fans Miserably. Yeah, I don't want to go back down the disaster if this gets red pilled. I don't think it is like a red pill video or anything like that. I think it's just a guy talking about Gears of War. It seems to be talking about the game as a game, which I really which I really appreciate. And was like, I was talking about that last time we were watching videos and stuff. I don't really have anything necessarily to say going into this video. I don't know anything about it or what his specific criticisms of Gears 5 are. I was just interested to see what the more generalized points about Gears 5 are from like a more, I don't want to say casual, but like from a more fan-based perspective of somebody who seems to actually be, or is claiming to be a fan of Gears. And I'm just curious to like look at that perspective and talk about Gears 5 and where it did fail and where EA can go through and fix things, which I've talked about a lot already. But that's basically it. We're not looking at any red pill stuff tonight. There's nothing new on those fronts that I know of that would be worth spending the brain power to look at regardless. Play.
Gears 5 missed the mark for many fans due to a soulless campaign, strange new mechanics, and a lack of fun casual modes. These issues left players disappointed and made it hard for the game to keep a broad audience engaged. This is why Gears 5 failed.
Alright, this is Nick and Mason, Wave 7. On 2 Mansion.
Oh, that's charming. 2009. God damn.
I've been a huge Gears of War fan since its release in 2006. I would spend hours and hours playing split screen with my best friend. It's something I would look forward to pretty much every single weekend growing up.
Oh, crap. Who's Baird? Yeah, watch your back.
Dude, I love seeing that. Dude, I played... This was my fucking game with all of my friends. Like, there was a buddy of mine who... You know, we'd stay up to, like, 3, 4 in the morning just playing Gears of War 2 Horde mode or, like, doing versus matches with AI and stuff. And, like, when... I kind of got to that age where, like, me and a bunch of buddies, like, we stopped kind of necessarily playing split screen a lot, and we'd be like, my buddy had his Xbox and I had my Xbox, and we'd just play like online. A buddy of mine who has appeared on the show a few times, Steven, we would play literally like every single day after school Gears of War 3 versus one another, just 1v1. And we played it so often that, like, I was a hardcore Gears fan, and he was like, he liked Gears, but he wasn't super into it. We played so much of it that he got good enough to, like, hit my level. Like, I would see him playing, like, I was really good at Gears because I just played it so much. I wasn't, like, good, but, you know, for a fucking 12-year-old or whatever, I was good at Gears. For, like, a 13, 14-year-old, I was good at Gears. My buddy, I would, like, get on and see that he was playing Gears of War 3 by himself because he was practicing so that he could be as good as I was. And it was so much fun, and we would do that literally like every single day after school and just sit down and play Gears of War 3 on Dry Dock. That's why Dry Dock is my favorite map. And just 1v1 for hours. And it stayed like that for a while until like Gears 4 came out, and I got really invested into it. Like, I was like high Onyx. I was like always like just below Diamond. I would always lose a match just before I was about to like get promoted to Diamond in the ranked modes. And it would piss me the fuck off. But I was like in high Onyx or whatever. So it's like when Gears 4 came out, we had been playing Gears 3 for some time. And like I was like, let's do it again. Let's do, you know, Gears 4 has Dry Dock. Let's do it 1v1 on Dry Dock. And I was fucking whooping his ass. And all that training went right out the window. Not Gridlock? No, Gridlock was kind of my... I don't really like the Gridlock map. I have a few good memories of playing Guardian Gridlock in Gears 4 with the really, really ugly gold skins. But no, Gridlock is not even in my top 10 Gears of War maps. Maybe the Gears 3 version of Gridlock, because I just really like that Easter egg where if you leave the Ash people alone, it plays Mad World. But Gridlock is not. I know it's in every single fucking game except Judgment, but I really don't. I don't hate Gridlock, but I don't care for it. A lot of my favorite Gears maps actually come from Gears 4, probably because I played the multiplayer the most. But it's like if I had to think of like my top 10 or like the top 10 that stick out to me is like Thrashball, Dry Dock, Overpass. That map with the sinking level, I loved those maps, the like dynamic maps and stuff in Gears of War. Those are my favorite. Flood. I never even played a lot of Gears 2 multiplayer, but like the effect of Flood itself has always like stuck out to me. I think the same for Hail. I don't remember if it's called Hail, but it's the map with the Razor Hail. It probably was. That was Gears of War's like base naming convention for maps. I'm actually trying to think of any others that stuck out to me. Thrashball was always like a really memorable one. And then I really liked Hotel. Reclaimed has been a map I always really enjoy. Okay, never mind. I can't think of 10. I can think of 10 maps, but 10 that I like really, really enjoy. I don't think Gridlock is up there though, man. The Slab, I really like the layout of the Slab. Gears 2 players would not choose River a lot of the time. Yeah, and they brought River back for Gears 5, and it doesn't play necessarily all that great in Gears 5, because the way you play Gears 5 and the way you play Gears 2 is just not the same. Gears 2 is so much slower, and it fits for River in Gears 2, but Gears 5 is so much faster that it's like basically a different fucking map. Would choose. Okay, yeah. I don't really have any memories of that. I didn't play Gears of War Online until Gears of War 4. Gears of War Judgment, because I would play a lot of Overrun. But like Gears 4 is when I started playing Gears of War Online proper. But I didn't play a lot of Gears 2 or Gears 3 online, especially way back in the day. I've played like online matches since then, like with like the much smaller player bases they have now, but not when they were in their heyday. This is really cool.
From campaign and horde to multiplayer and chasing down the Seriously achievements, it was honestly some of the best times of my life. Being the competitor I am at heart, I have always wanted to be better than everybody that I'm playing against. I quickly started to play game battles, and after hundreds of matches, I found myself climbing the ranks and making a name for myself.
God, you could tell this was recorded in 2009.
Oh crap, stop.
Oh, yeah. The slow-mo.
A couple years passed.
Oh, man. That's great. The slow-mo on killing the bot in Horde mode in Gears of War 2. Guys, you don't want to miss it.
And the game that I spent so much time with became my job. I was traveling the world, playing for millions of dollars, and representing the most prestigious organization in the world.
Oh, really?
Optic Gaming.
You bring the energy here. You definitely get everybody all pumped up. What did you think about the Echo Fox squad as they were coming back on you?
I didn't know he played for Optic Gaming. That's actually really, really interesting. The only thing I can talk on the Gears esports scene, outside of the fact that it was kind of very, very unpopular with the majority of players, I would see so many esports hate threads on the forums and stuff, mainly because people felt like they were prioritizing like a esports scene that was very, very small compared to what most people played Gears of War for, which was like horde mode and just playing with their friends and stuff like that, or playing the campaign. So a lot of people just didn't really care. They were either indifferent to it, like I was, or they really didn't like it. The only time I remember actually watching any of the esports games was one of the championships with Optic Gaming. I think I was just watching it because they were... I forget what the skin was called, but it was a specific skin you would get. Like if you watched the Twitch stream of like, maybe it wasn't even Twitch, maybe it was still Mixer at the time, but if you watched the stream of the championship, you would get skins in Gears of War 4. I think it was Twitch, but one of their championships, they were playing Escalation. If you don't know anything about Gears of War or how Escalation works, basically is the way Escalation is set up is that, like, there's power weapons on the field. In Escalation, at the start of a round, there's no power weapons. It starts out, or the start of a phase of rounds, there's no power weapons. And whenever a team is, loses a round, they get to place a power weapon on the field. So basically, what these guys did, Optic, I don't know if it's the same Optic team that Icy was on, but Optic purposely lost the first round. They were all running around with like snubs and lancers and playing very bad. Like, it wasn't so bad that you could tell they were throwing, but it was obvious, even to someone like me who wasn't necessarily the greatest player in the world at the time, that they weren't going as hard as they should have been. Live.Gears of War, which used Twitch. Okay. That's probably why it felt like Twitch. Anyways, I wasn't very big on Twitch or streaming way back at the time anyways. But, like, these guys had a non-stop record. Like, they had won every other game against other esports teams in this entire season. And I remember it because they were playing on the slab. These guys were so fucking good, they didn't have a single loss. In the very first round, they lost. And then they put down a power weapon. It was a drop shot, if I remember correctly. And then the next 7 rounds, they went 7-0. And then, the final score was 7-1. I believe it was first to 7 wins. And they won the championship. But they basically let themselves lose that first round so they could put down the power weapon that they wanted and steamroll the rest of the match, which they probably didn't even need to do, but they just did it anyways. And that's the only memory and the only thing I ever remember about Gears of War esports outside of, like, going online because Pro Gear had his, like, Gears of War utility app, and I would load that up, and it had a link straight to the stream that you can go into, and so you can go in off the app and get the rewards to make sure that you had it all set up so you can get all the special skins for Gears of War 4. I never collected all of them, but I got, a handful of them.
Coming back, they got the first 5 rounds, and just like Gilbert said, we got angry and got tired of it, and we started playing our game. They definitely improved since I was banned. I returned. They're a lot better team, but we're the best.
Okay, what can we expect from Optic Gaming for the rest of season 2? You guys now got your 6th event championship here.
Dude, that's such a fucking cool trophy. The diamond, like, gear, like, competitive symbol with the fucking Nasher in front of it. That's such a fucking cool. That is so much cooler than the shit they give you at the Super Bowl. What the hell, guys? It's like the Rainbow Six esports scene where, like, the championships, like, they get, like, the giant hammer, like Sledge's hammer. Like, it's so fucking cool.
Here on the Gears Pro Circuit, what can we expect the rest of the way?
5 more.
5 more. Big shot.
Oh, the Nasher comes off? Oh my god.
Optic Gaming, your
Never got the appeal of rewards. It wasn't a reward for playing competitive. I don't even know. There were, like, metallic skins you would get. Like, I have all the gold, silver, and onyx ones in Gears 4 still. I was never really competitive either. Like, I did it mainly just because I enjoyed playing Gears 4 so much. And I got good at it. I wasn't doing it because I was competitive, but just because I really enjoyed it. And that's why I got into it. And then, like, the gold skins and stuff were like a bonus. I really didn't like the diamond and onyx skins in Gears 4. I mainly wanted to get the gold and silver ones, and then, like, the gold skins and stuff in Gears 5 are even worse. They have, like, this stupid logo on it, and I really, really hate the fact that it has that. But I get that if you're just, like, not a competitive person. I knew so many people that were like, I need 100% Gears 4, but I really don't want to play Versus, So there's, like, a couple things that are, like, in ranked or whatever. Like, there was a couple skins in Gears 4's lifetime, like the Emerald gear, the diamond gear, and the ruby scion that you would get for like getting however many kills in ranked versus in like a 3-month time period. It's like get 5,000 kills in ranked versus, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, I was playing a lot of Gears 4, and I think I have like 46 days worth of time in Gears 4. Like, as of like today or whatever. I only have 11,000 kills in Gears of War 4's multiplayer. I do not have that much. As compared to like some fucking insane people that have like incredible lists and stuff. Or stats, I guess. Who just played a fuck ton of that game. Like the 5,000 kills for the skin or whatever. I remember seeing that and being like, okay, I'll try. And they're like, you have like 3 months. And I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. I'm not doing that.
Gears Pro Circuit, Dallas Open champion.
Fast forward another several years, and here I am still playing the game that I once loved and creating content for a community that I feel deserves it. Before we get into this video, I would like to remind you that I only want what I think is best for this game and for the community overall. Thank you guys so much. Please hit that like and subscribe button and enjoy the video.
Okay. So I'm assuming a lot of this is going to come from the perspective of ranked competitive play then. And like the actual, I don't know if it'll be necessarily about the game mechanics, but more from like a versus point of view.
Boys, we're going to just kind of rapid fire through this long list of stuff that I have.
Maybe. This video came out last November.
You know, contemplating making, another one of these type of videos for a while. A lot of people ask me for it, and so today is the day. This is going to be my last one, though. I do want to just go ahead and say that this is definitely going to be my last video regarding, the negative sides of Gears 5. So, yeah, hopefully you guys, all, agree or disagree or whatever. But definitely leave a comment and, let me know if I missed anything. So, first and foremost, man, the campaign for Gears 5 was just absolutely awful. I think if you asked 100 people, maybe five out of the 100 would say that it's good. It's not even necessarily, the actual campaign itself. It's just the story. It's dog shit, in my opinion. We don't like Kate. I'll just go ahead and say that. We miss Marcus, right? We miss Marcus.
I think it's a bad take. I think you miss Marcus because Kate is a bad character. If Kate was written well, I think she could be an incredible Gears of War character, an incredible thing. He just has opinions. Like, yeah, I wasn't going into this with the assumption he was a red-pilled moron. I can talk about the Gears 5 campaign for another 15 fucking hours. We've talked about it so much. I talked about it in my years later video. We talked about when we played it on stream a month ago. There's a lot of issues to Gears 5's campaign. A lot that could honestly be really easily solved. But I think the take of people being like, we want Delta, we want Marcus, we want, Cole and Baird. I think that's just not really true. I think you want those characters because the characters we've gotten instead of them are bad. Which is like, it's valid. It's like, why are we focusing on new characters that are bad if they're bad? Why not give us characters we care about or whatever? Marcus in 4 and 5 might have the most personality, more personality than he did in the first 3 games. In 4, maybe. He's not really in Gears of War 4 enough to have a personality. In Gears 5, I don't know. I feel like he's got just about the same personality as he does in like Gears 3. It's hard to say because he really just doesn't have a lot of time in those games. I think he has the most personality in Gears 3. It's like where he's the most talkative. And he's basically identical in Gears 1 and 2. Elements of it, yeah. It just sort of depends, Like there's parts of Gears 5 where I could see that. Or where he seems like an actual person. But Marcus is not the problem with Gears 4 or 5. I don't really have an issue with how he's written. Outside of stuff I've talked about before, like I think he should have died in Gears 4. I think he should have been the, the inciting incident that sets off the new trilogy and stuff. But the whole idea of like you want Marcus back and you don't want Kate is just sort of like, it's a very simple way, and I don't mean to say simple as like a bad thing. I think it's just that like people don't have the God, I don't want to come off in like a pretentious way. People are like not having the wherewithal to understand that like if Kate was a good character, they wouldn't mind Kate, or if JD was a good character, they wouldn't mind JD, or if Dell was a good character, they wouldn't mind Dell. He cries, little bitch. I did say that. Because I just don't think that's, I don't think it's true that you like necessarily want Marcus more than you want Kate or JD. It's just that Marcus, even though he doesn't have a character, having no character is, in this context, kind of comes off better than having a bad character. Because with like a character like Kate, people might not even be able to identify why she's a bad character or why they don't like her, but they know enough. It's like CGI. You don't have to be like a experienced graphic designer or computer engineer to understand when CGI is bad, because CGI is trying to mimic reality. So when CGI is bad, people will know it's bad. They don't have to tell you why it's bad to tell you it's bad. They can just tell you it's bad. And that same kind of goes with character writing. Like, they could say Kate is a bad character, but she's not a bad character because of her inception of a character. She's not bad because she is, just a person. She's bad because she's written poorly. And if that wasn't the case, I don't think people would have the same criticism of Kate. And it's kind of like the where I say like having no character is better than a bad character is that like in Gears 5 they try to make these characters more unique and stand out more and talk a lot more than they used to, like how characters would originally interact with stuff in Gears 3 in like the original Gears games. In the original Gears games, the characters talk like it's a fucking action movie. They don't have like character traits or personality or necessarily, outside of like a few stereotyped traits that each character has and they stick with for the entire trilogy. So it means that like they never do anything that's like going to catch you off guard or really mess with your expectations too much. With Gears 5, they're like constantly trying to do things or make characters stand out in ways that either the script or the world just does not reinforce. And it means that like being a cookie cutter action hero in Gears 1, 2, and 3, Marcus works for that. He is a cookie cutter action hero, which is not a good character, but it's a character that is serviceable for what the plot and the script asks of him, to be a cookie cutter action hero. And I think you could tell that he's not necessarily a great character by the fact that, like, you ever like see John DiMaggio talk in interviews, when he's talking about other characters, he's like really into it. He's got like this really jovial attitude where he's like, "Yeah, Jake the dog, Bender." But then if he's ever like doing like, or like answering questions about Marcus or anything like that, he's like, "Yeah, Marcus is a tough military guy," and that's kind of like the be all end all of it. And it doesn't get any deeper than that whatsoever. Hunk from Resident Evil, or the man with no name. I don't know anything about Hunk as personality-wise. I just know he's the gas mask man. But yeah, like, he doesn't have a character or anything that he does in those games outside of be angry, which is a very, very easy thing to write for the kind of games that Gears 1, 2, and 3 are. In Gears 4 and 5, Kate is supposed to be this really complex character. She's got a lot going on. She's got a lot of really difficult choices to make because she is literally Hitler's granddaughter, and it's this really complex character, and it takes a lot of tact and creativity and personhood to be able to write a character like that in a way that the audience can get behind them and enjoy that. And you can see that in the new God of War games. Kratos is written like that. But Kate isn't, which is a shame, because if she was written well, I don't think people would have this opinion that, we want Marcus, we don't want Kate. I don't think it's that like they don't want Kate, it's that they don't want a bad character that doesn't fit the fucking story. And it's really unfortunate, and it's kind of like what you get. It's entirely the fault of like the directors or the writers to fail to convey the complex things they're trying to do with Kate, but they don't have the writing chops or the constitution to pull it off. At the same way that like Marcus is a much, much easier character to pull off for the kind of story that he's in, you know? And it's really unfortunate for people like Laura Bailey, who just voices the character. She's literally just doing mocap and providing the voice. She's not writing the character. She's just not directing it. But she kind of gets the brunt of it because people are like, woman, you know? Not that that's what Icy's criticism is, but it's definitely like a thing that people run with because they're able to, because there's all these other multifaceted layers to why it's bad. Carlos Fier has a lot more to say on Dom than John does for Marcus. Well, yeah, Dom has a lot more complex things going on than Marcus. Now, it's not that much more complex. It's kind of the same amount of complexity, but in the other direction, where Marcus is angry, Dom is grief and sadness. It's still just as complex as far as, like, you know, choices and things like that the character makes. It's very, very still one-dimensional, but it's a different facet of one-dimensionality. So, and just I think that grief is just a lot harder to pull off than anger. So, saying that he probably has more connection to that than John DiMaggio's performance as Marcus is probably not incorrect. But yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, that's what Gears of War is.
See, and that's exactly like he just does not have. This is somebody who is played Gears of War at the highest competitive level, and this is why it's such a complex thing. Because just because you're really, really good at the game doesn't mean you have that more nuanced understanding of how the story and the script interacts with characters in a way that, like, when he's trying to think of why Marcus works and why Kate doesn't, it's like, I don't know, it just feels better. And it feels better because Kate is a poorly written character. But being able to express that is really the more, the pressing thing to take into account on the remark.
I don't want Kate to be forced on us, but yeah, to be honest with you, man, Gears 5 and also Gears 4 campaigns, in my opinion, were pretty subpar, Gears 5 being the worst. And I just think if you compare it to, you know, previous Gears campaigns, it's night and day. Like, it's just awful. Some other things I'd like to talk about was, like, some of, like, the offline game modes. There really isn't any, right? There's Horde, there's Escape, and there's Campaign. Obviously, you can play multiplayer as well in those, but you know, I'm talking about just strictly somebody who just wants to turn their Xbox on and play some Gears. What are they going to play, right? Are they going to just repeatedly play the campaign, or what exactly are they going to play? So the reason I'm bringing this up is I feel that Gears 5 really struggled to keep the casual player, you know, invested and interested into the game. Everybody knows Gears 5 was released with the whole Game Pass thing, so a lot of people play Gears 5 for free. And that's great and everything, except for the fact that a lot of these players that tested out the game, they never came back. And, you know, that is really the biggest problem with the whole Game Pass thing. I understand it's a great marketing and it's honestly a genius, you know, business strategy. But at the end of the day, I feel that, you know, you want players to not have a bad taste in their mouth once they get off of your game. And I just feel like that kind of hurt it.
Is there any... I'm perplexed by that take about how people came in because it was free on Game Pass and it hurt the game. Now, if you tie that into the fact that it, like, maybe the fact that they launched it on Game Pass has influenced some of their decisions to more dumb down and, like, casualize the gameplay, I could see that take, but that doesn't seem to be the take. The take is that there's an influx of players that wouldn't ordinarily play Gears playing Gears at the beginning of the game's life cycle, so therefore that's bad? That's an odd take. And the whole thing about playing offline is very, very true now for, like, almost all video games. I I really hate it as well. The fact that like there's single player story games that you can't play offline is really just fucking bullshit. The fact that everything has to be online all the time. Like that's what the Xbox One got shit for when it launched in like 2014 because they were like the always online, all in one Xbox One. It's like, what do you mean always online? Like what? Like I lose power, or if I like don't have Wi-Fi, like I'm just shit out of luck. Like one of the most popular features of the 360 was like offline play. That's why you had people in fucking Afghanistan, stationed, halfway across the globe, playing Call of Duty on the Xbox 360 because they could play it offline. Like that is one of the like core cultural staples of those older consoles and stuff like that. And like now that everything is like forced to be online all the time, it's just fucking lame. Even like games that do allow you to play offline as well, like Space Marine 2, where it's like Space Marine 2 you could play offline, but it doesn't save your progress, so if you play offline, you basically didn't play at all. And it's like, who the fuck cares? Let me play the PvE modes offline by myself. Like, what? You think I'm going to hack and cheat at the game so badly in the PvE game mode where the only advantage I get is against bots? Who the fuck cares? It's just complete bullshit. I'm also very, very annoyed with it. Not knowing your audience. Don't you guys have... Dude, the Diablo Immortal thing was crazy because it also made so much fucking money.
In my own opinion, but whatever. Let me know what you guys think about that. One thing that I've talked about in the past as well is the unlockable, process, the unlocking of skins and characters and things like that. I think it's just so terrible, man, in Gears 5. And again, I am going to be very blunt and very, I'm not trying to be like aggressive, but I'm going to be very straightforward, in my mentality here and in my wording. Like, I really think that Gears 5 in particular did a horrendous job of giving players an opportunity to unlock characters and exclusive items and weapon skins and different things like that. I just think it's awful, man. Like if you look back in like Gears 3,
damn,
you have to beat the campaign on Insane to get this and beat it on Hardcore to get that, and it's just like things like that is what it should be like, man. Not everything needs to be a microtransaction. Not everything needs to be, just, I don't know, man. I just feel like it's really, really bad. The one thing I will give Gears 5 credit for, though, is the whole, like, Gears coin thing. So you get, like, little coins or, like, points or whatever for playing matches and stuff. So I guess that is good. However, I actually don't think that the actual...
I mean, it's not what you play the game for, but the fact that it existed was a very, very player-friendly thing. It's something Space Marine 2 does now as well. It's a very, very common opinion. It's one I had. It's the fact that, like, Gears 4 came out. People were probably expecting a not Tour of Duty, a war journal option in the same way that, like, Gears 3 had, where completing different tasks and doing different medals and stuff like that would get you specific character skins. Gears 4 comes out, it has a fucking, RNG card system. The lamest fucking shit in all of existence. They eventually make it to where you can also grind to like unlock cards and stuff later on. But it was just really, really grindy and really, really not player friendly because it incentivized you to spend an ungodly amount of money to get fucking skins and shit. That was also incredibly FOMO. Gears 5 came out and it was just a straight up shop. Also not great. But eventually they did roll that back, like you said, with Gears coins and stuff. And I don't know if they did that because they actually were trying to make the player experience better, or if it's like they had like no other option. Like the player count was not that great. They weren't making that much money from it. They figured, fuck it, might as well make it possible, while also giving the option to pay. Introduce Inconceivable. Yeah, in Gears 4. What do you call it? And then they had the things in the Tour of Duty, which is just a battle pass. It's called Tour of Duty. It's just a battle pass where it has medals, But the medals in the Tour of Duty aren't like how we wanted medals, or how we, how we had medals in Gears of War 3, which were basically like in-game achievements for doing X amount of thing, X amount of times. The more you do it, the higher level of the medal you get. In Gears 5, the medals in the Tour of Duty Battle Pass was an objective, like get 10,000 kills in a season. It was basically just a Battle Pass timed challenge, which is not what people had in mind when they said, hey, we want medals. And then they did that, and it's like, well, that's not what we were asking for. It wasn't what we were asking for. You can't just call it. The Judgment did have them as well. You can't just call it what we were asking for and expect us to be okay with it, because just calling it the same name but it being a very, very different thing is not what we asked for. It's not what we wanted. And it was really, really, really stupid of them for to play it that route instead of just building the system like it was asked for. And now it'll be curious to see what direction EA goes into, because it sounds like EA is going to be a big proper Gears game. It's not like going to be like Tactics necessarily, where it's like a smaller thing, or like Judgment, where it's a smaller thing. It sounds like it's going to be a big proper Gears of War release. It'll be interesting to see if they go back to the storefront, which is very popular for games now, or if they do the Gears 5 style, where Gears 5 is now, where you have like the store that you can unlock with coins, or you can, pay anyways, or if it'll be all pay, like you have to pay money for it, and it'll just get more anti-consumer, or if they'll actually come all the way around to going full pro-consumer and giving us back the completely in-game, you can earn basically all of the skins just by playing the game and doing certain objectives, and then having like a side selection of a bunch of other skins that you can pay for, but there's still plenty of skins in the base game that you could just play and earn through playing the campaign on Insane, or beating Beast Mode on Insane without losing, or playing 500 matches of any game mode, or playing 100 matches of each game mode, or earning $1 million in Beast Mode or Horde Mode. All that kind of extra shit that gave you those special skins without having to pay for them. And how EA handles it will be very, very, very contentious. Depending on what they do, will be very, very contentious for the audience. Not expecting the Coalition to be Valve levels of based. No, I wouldn't expect them. I think best case scenario, they're probably going to do the system that Gears 5 has now, which Gears 5's current system is a lot more generous than a lot of games on the market. But the fact that it's a $60 game and it has that system is already kind of bullshit. But if it's even more predatory than that, if it's I guess it depends if they make the multiplayer free to play. Like they did that for Halo Infinite, where the campaign you pay for, but the multiplayer is free to play, which kind of justifies the expensive store, but not necessarily. That'll be interesting to see if they go that route. But especially in a full price AAA game, having you have to now also pay for a lot more of your cosmetics and stuff would be fucking gay as hell.
Weapon skins and the characters that you can unlock are any good. I think that a lot of them are really subpar, and I just think that if you compare it to Gears 4, Gears 4 blows it out of the water completely. So again, let me know what you guys think about that. But
Gears 4 blows it out. What? You mean Gears 3? Gears 4 was more predatory than Gears 5 is. We're just talking about that. It was a gambling FOMO card system, like FIFA. Gears 4 is not better for the consumer than Gears 5. Don't say that. That's not. I hope you meant to say Gears 3. That's not what that is.
I just think that we kind of went backwards in terms of customization and unlocking things and things like that. I just really think that less is more and simple is better.
Damn. I agree with that.
I guess the next thing that I'll go into is, for players that really do care about like re-upping and getting to a higher rank and stuff, when you have players, and I don't really blame the players. Let me just start off by saying this, but you have a lot of players glitching their ranks, right? Playing Horde and like glitching their ranks, or back in Gears 3, there was this thing called Horizon, and it was like a software, and people would just like unlock everything and blah blah blah, right? So the problem,
Oh, Horizon still exists. It's still being used by people today. Which, yeah, I think it's fucking bullshit. But I don't think that's necessarily a thing of, like, ranks. I'll be curious what he says, because it's not like it's not the game's fault that people have to cheat to, like, unlock everything. That's going to exist no matter what game you play.
with the problem with that is, like, for the players that do achieve the highest rank legitimately, it really takes away the feeling of, oh, I did it, right? It's more of like a only for them type of feeling. And in my opinion, if you get to like the number one on the leaderboards, or if you have like an exclusive skin, or if you, for an example, are the highest re-up or prestige, whatever you guys want to call it, I think that that's something that you should be proud of, and I think that that's something that should give a sense of accomplishment. And when you have players just glitching their ranks and stuff, it really takes it completely away.
Yeah, obviously that's going to ruin it for any player base. I don't know how prevalent people basically hacking their rank, like their re-ups in Gears 5 is. I know people exploit and do like horde speedruns and stuff like that. I did. That's how I got to Wings 1 in Gears 4. I didn't do that shit legitimately. I did a fuck ton of horde speedruns. But like, it wasn't necessarily like using Horizon, where you break into the game and like give yourself all those unlocks basically for free. I don't know how prevalent that is in Gears 5 and or 4. I know it was big in Gears 3, and I agree it can make it suck, but I don't think that also exists in every single game. But I don't know, like, I guess if somebody cheats their way to getting the special skin you get at Re-Up 50, sure, that sucks. I don't know how much that really ruins the experience. Like, if it was like, if you had unlocks tied to your re-ups, like if it, for whatever reason, made you just better, faster, stronger in multiplayer, like how Call of Duty does it, that would be annoying, yeah. But if it's just cosmetics, I don't think it's necessarily that big of a deal. Like, I get it, it might be heartbreaking to learn that, like, you're doing hard work, you're doing all this stuff, and then, what's his fucking name? The Liver King is just out here taking trend. Like, yeah, that's probably disheartening to be like, oh, what the fuck? This guy's cheating and I can't. But I don't know how that necessarily like ruins the game experience. Like if the point of it that you care about is that you worked hard for it, the fact that somebody else cheated shouldn't take away from your own self-accomplishment that you worked hard for it. I mean, I guess like them using it in like the same space as you or whatever, maybe, sure. But like, as long as you are like proud of yourself in that way, it shouldn't matter. Comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare yourself to an addict that has to cheat at a video game to make themselves feel special. You're never going to win with that.
From those players and from the game itself. And that was happening very early on. The next thing I will say is lack of good, like, casual game modes. So we talked a little bit about, like, the offline game modes. In terms of, like, casual game modes, what I mean by that is, like, Judgment Overrun. Or
What's up, boys? Welcome, James Steele. I don't know if you were in the chat earlier. I'm sorry. We did a Warhammer tier list. Now we're talking about Gears of War 5 and basically what Gears of 5 did wrong from the perspective of Red IC here, who played on the Optic Gaming team. That's about it.
Or Gears 3 Beast Mode, things like that. There is no reason in the world, in my opinion, that Gears 5 should have two game modes, Horde and Escape. That does not make sense, man.
Hold on. What? What do you mean it doesn't make sense? Well, why? Gears 3 had two game modes, Horde and Beast. Like, I get like having more, I guess like Horde and Escape are more like, they play more into like the RPG elements of the card systems and stuff. Like, they're not super casual where you could just pick up and play it. But you can. Like, as long as you're not playing it on the hardest difficulty, like Horde and Escape, even if you're playing like level 1 classes with no cards, no skills whatsoever, are still perfectly fine to play. I still feel like there's a lot of content for casual fans to enjoy. I'm a casual fan. I love the fuck out of Escape. That's that's a weird way to put that.
Does not make sense, man. It doesn't. I'm sorry to say, but like I started off this video, Escape is dog shit. It is dog shit. Okay, people like Horde. I understand that, and I also could like genuinely get why people enjoy it. However, I've heard countless people in this community say that they want Overrun back. Me personally, I would love to see Beast Mode back. These game modes are...
So, like, whether or not you like we're getting a Warhammer movie before Gears of War movie, kind of. I wouldn't say Gears of War is America's 40K. No. Gears of War is not nearly popular enough. Warhammer 40K is America's Warhammer 40K. I mean, we're still getting a Gears movie. It's currently in development something at Netflix. The last we got was in 2023. The screenwriter for one of the Dune movies apparently was attached to the project. I don't know if he still is, but that's the last reward I saw. Oh, that's fine. It's not really redneck 40K, but yeah. But Warhammer is just so much bigger than Gears. Of course, they would put more. It would get more like resources kind of thrown at it. You know, Gears hasn't really been popular since 2010, unfortunately, but especially to the level that Warhammer 40K is popular. Warhammer's fucking big, and it's been bigger than ever since 2020, and it's only been getting bigger year after year after year. Whereas Gears is kind of still it's like Halo, where it's still kind of just coasting off of the immense popularity it had in the early 2000s. But it hasn't really brought that back or anything, you know. Like you say, it's like America's Warhammer 40K in the way that it's like an American property that features big, gruff soldiers with chainsaw weapons. Sure. But if that's like the, the standard for it, I would say, Doom is probably also fits that better. It's also bigger. But anyways, back on the video. With the Escape thing, like, it's personally, like, it's completely subjective. And also, you could not like Escape. That's fine. You could prefer Overrun. You could prefer Beast Mode. I don't know what the take is. Is the take like if the take is like if we have to have one or the other, I would prefer Beast Mode or I would prefer Overrun. That's fine. But I feel like the standard should be I would want Beast, Overrun, and Escape all in the same game. Like, especially for those like those more casual PvE type modes, the more the better, you know? Like, you're not losing anything by having Escape and Beast Mode in the same game, or having Overrun and Beast Mode and Escape in the same game. It's not the same as, like, the competitive and casual splits you have in the versus modes, where it's like splitting the versus between these two different tunings, and competitive tuning and casual tuning splits the player base because you have to have, so many players doing competitive and so many doing the more casual stuff, because the people that play PvE are just gonna play PvE. They're gonna play Beast Mode, they're gonna play Escape, they're gonna play Horde, and they might be split between those three, and it might stretch their resources a little bit, and maybe they only can do one or the other or two, and having your preferences is fine, but I feel like just the flat opinion of like, this one's dog shit, we need this one, it's like, you could say I prefer that, but I feel like that's a really, really aggressive stance to take for something that's not really that serious, when the standard opinion should be, hey, people obviously like this. People love Escape. I like Escape. I like Escape more than Beast Mode because it feels more, I don't know, I just like the vibe of it more, I guess. Too many modes, choice over saturation. It can. That's what I'm saying. For Versus, I get why that's a problem. But when you're talking about PvE, I don't see an issue with it. It's like, you have basically free reign of all these different modes, because beast mode is fun, but I'm not going to sit here and play beast mode every single night. Like, that's like I'll play once a week with my friends type of thing, you know? But if I have beast mode, if I have overrun, if I have horde and escape all in the same spot, that gives you a much greater variety of game modes that play differently, that also aren't splitting your player base. Because the people who play PvE are playing PvE, and you don't need player base in those spots, you know? It doesn't matter if you don't have, you know, if Horde is only 20% of your player base, because Horde only requires 5 players. It's not like multiplayer where you need 10 people for every single match. Yeah, for PvE, all it is better for the player base if you have more ways to play and have fun with the game. So, like, the standard position should be, let's have as many as we can have, you know? Like, I think if you lose beast mode and have escape, there's nothing wrong with that. I think people really like beast mode because it is so much different than anything else. But honestly, you could lose beast mode, have overrun, escape, and horde, and I think you've got a really good selection of stuff. Overrun is PvP, but like as far as like casual PvE game modes go, I'd rather have overrun than like, you know, what do you call it? Free for all or anything. And obviously with PvP, especially the casual PvP game modes in Gears of War, you have bot backfills. Gears of War has always used bots. So even if you are running towards like the end of a game's life cycle, like Gears of War Judgment is 12 years old now, going to be 13 this year. Is it? I actually don't know. I'm not doing math right now. I think it's 12. Even though the game is effectively dead today, you can still go and play Overrun. It was to replace Beast Mode. I mean, I could see that. It's definitely an evolution of Beast Mode. I think I like it more than Beast. But I think in the same way that, like, how he was saying earlier, that, like, we want Marcus, we don't want Kate, is very much the same as, like, we want Beast Mode, we don't want Escape, is because when he was playing Beast Mode in 2011, he was playing split screen with his buddies and having a good time with it. And I think that nostalgia also plays a part into why, like, this one's dog trash and this one's amazing. And it's like, well, have you played this one? Do you still play this one? Or have you played this and PvE isn't really your thing? Obviously, I don't think it is, considering he is one of the, you know, top. He's part of, you know, an esports team for Gears of War. I wouldn't expect him to be a very big PvE player, but I know plenty of people that love Escape. I love Escape. I love Escape more than Horde, mainly because Horde is just too much of a fucking time sink for me. But, you know, it's a weird, really, it's just strange to take the position that you need one or the other. And this one's fucking awful. But it's like not. It's just not for you. Which is, you know, people are allowed to like and dislike what they like. That doesn't mean it's bad or that it needs to get, like, executed or something, you know? Not that I think EA will have an Escape game mode, because unless they change the framing of it, because currently the framing for Escape is that you're going into a hive, which you need, like, Gears of War 4 and 5, the modern era, to be able to do that. Play any Gears games? I mean, if you like... I think the gameplay is very, very, very redundant once you get to, like, Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3. But that trilogy is not... If you've never played them, the trilogy is probably not awful. Especially if you have Game Pass or something like that. As much as I think it gets very stale and it does feel very dated, like, today. But I forgot what I was talking about anyways. But yeah, I think it's just an odd position to take with the with regards to different game modes and stuff like that.
Are significant. They are super, super important for the casual community. And, you know, not everybody wants to just get on and play campaign or Escape, and not everybody just wants to run around and play, you know, multiplayer, which we're going to get to in just a second. You know, people want to just have...
And I get that people don't want to just play Escape, but, like, then the position should be we should have Escape and Beast Mode, because not everybody wants to play Beast Mode. I don't want to play Beast Mode. Beast Mode is fun every once in a while. It's not the only thing to do, though. I would rather do something else. I would rather do Escape. I think there's more to do in Escape than there is in Beast Mode with the way that the levels are set up.
Fun, man, sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like in Gears 5 in 2024, man, I mean, come on, bro. Like, we got to have something more, right? Like, this is ridiculous at this point. I do also want to mention, we were promised a map creator. I don't know if you guys remember this, but before Gears 5 was actually released, we were promised a map creator, both for Escape and both for actual multiplayer. So, players were going to be able to...
Was the map creator ever... Beast Mode is good if you like to waste time on something? It's just a fun, like, turn your brain off and have fun with type thing. I think Escape is more fun for me than Beast Mode because Escape has so many different maps with the different modifiers and different objectives and stuff like that, versus Beast Mode is, like, effectively the exact same thing. The map is just, like, set dressing. But as far as the map editor, we had the Escape one, obviously. They removed it, which kind of sucks. But I don't remember the map editor ever being touted as a thing for multiplayer maps. We got it for Escape. I know that. Do you know, Banana, if they ever... I don't ever remember them, like, saying it was going to be for multiplayer maps. I remember them just saying map editor, and then eventually it was revealed that it was just Escape, but they never, like, promised it for multiplayer maps. And then, like, doubled back on that, as far as I remember. Because I was fucking big on map editors. I still love in-game map editors, like in Far Cry and stuff. And I feel like I would have lost my shit if that was something that was promised way back in the day. But I don't remember that ever being a thing, outside of, like, obviously the Escape one. They wanted to go for Forge mode? No. And even the map editor we did get was much more like Doom Snap Map, but less complex than Doom. Because Doom Snap Map let you, like, put down for Horde and multiplayer. Oh, damn. I don't remember that. Yeah, that fucking sucks. But it was like Doom Snap Map where you put down the rooms, and in Doom, you could put down a whole room and then you go inside and place individual enemies and camera moves, and, like, you can do, like, a little bit of programming inside of it. In Gears 5, you just put down the room and you say, I want this amount of guns to spawn here, or I want this thing to spawn here, or I want this enemy to spawn here, and it would just do that kind of automatically. To have the Halo map editor, I don't think the Halo map editor would work for Gears because Halo is a sandbox, whereas Gears of War is not. Gears of War is level-based. Like, you need the framework. I think having, like, a snap map type thing would work. And I would love to see that in multiplayer. They did use some of the, what do you call it? Modules that you had in the Hive builder for multiplayer maps, like a few of the free-for-all maps. If not all of the big free-for-all maps, as far as I am aware, are made of the Escape, like, tiles. But wanting a Forge mode, yeah, I don't think that would work because Gears is so much more, like, it's on rails, kind of, in a way, with the cover system and stuff, that I think having presets that you could set up in different selections would work, or maybe some way to put down, like, things of half cover, like, on a grid system would work. Kind of like The Sims, I guess, more so. Not as in-depth, obviously, but how, like, The Sims is, like, on a grid system instead of just being freeform in the same way that Forge is. Because if you had it Forge style, with the way Gears plays, it would break a lot of things. But having, like, the ability to put down modules and then put down an edit cover inside of that would be really cool, because instead of people being like, we want River back, you could effectively make maps akin to River in the creator and just have those, like, community-led things. But yeah, it sucked that took it away. I gotta think if they... I don't remember that ever being a thing. Maybe I forgot about it by the time it came out because I was happy with the Escape one, but...
to actually create their own map and test it out in private matches and stuff like that. Okay, that never happened. That would have been awesome. But again, that's a broken promise. And, it's kind of bullshit, man. We're being sold something that isn't true.
By the way, as far as, like, broken promises and stuff, like, that's not even... It may have been in like releases and stuff beforehand, but I don't remember it ever being like I said, like I don't remember it ever being really necessarily a big buzz. And outside of all of Gears 5's problem, it's a comparatively small one, because that's like, even if we did have a map editor, that's only really for people that are like really, you're not going to get anything like Forge. A Sims player trying to trap them in a pool. Oh yeah, didn't the Dead by Daylight team do that? They like, don't they have a game that's like that, where you could have like, you have one player that's like a god type character that's like overlooking the map, and the other players are like fighting against you, trying to escape your puzzle or whatever. I don't know how that game played, but I remember seeing the trailer for it and thinking that's what it was like. But I don't know. I feel like this one doesn't matter as much to me, because the way Gears of War is built mechanically means that either A, your map editor has to be incredibly limited, or B, it's just going to break everything every time you try to do something. Or it's not going to play intentionally. And I don't think there's enough players in the Gears of War community that are going to be making games with the foresight of like, you know, this is how a Gears map is made, here's the philosophy of it, here's how to make a good one. Obviously, there would be standouts, or people would just recreate old maps. But I don't necessarily see what you get out of that. Especially in a game like Gears 5 that has the largest number of maps in a single Gears game to date. You know, they didn't even have to do the Gears 4 thing where they have duplicates of maps and stuff. It just has the most maps out of any game. So I don't necessarily see it as like a big betrayal. The bigger betrayal, I think, is the fact that they had it for Escape. Like they, you know, went in on making the Escape one. They put in the effort to like add a new tile set and update it as they went along, and then they just scrapped it. I could understand scrapping like the viewer or whatever, like to search through people's published maps and stuff. I wouldn't have an issue if they got rid of that. If they were like, hey, this takes up server space, or some, you know, bullshit excuse. Like, we don't want to be monitoring this or fixing this, so we're getting rid of it. And you could, like, the only Escape maps you could play on is, like, ones that you or your friends made and you invite them to. I'd be fine with that. But they just scrapped the whole thing. I'm more tiffed about that than them saying we might do multiplayer and horde maps as well, and then just not doing that. Because I can understand them changing something pre-launch than taking away something post-launch, you know. You've already shipped me this thing, especially a player like me who loved the map editor, even though it was limited and stuff like that. You already shipped me this thing. I paid $60 for this fucking game, and you're just going to take it away? Like, and there's not even like a way for me to continue doing it locally in the game itself. I just think that's kind of bullshit, you know? Like, imagine buying a house and somebody is like, by the way, we're going to take the porch back. It's like, what? Losing quite a bit of money and keeping the servers up. That's what I mean. Like, I get, like, having to, the server excuse and stuff like that, but, like, is there really no way to keep it locally? To have, like, your own local pool of maps? I guess not, because Gears 5 and every other game nowadays has to be constantly online in order for you to do anything. But it should have been like able or have the ability to just let you play offline, or keep your own maps offline, you know, instead of just removing that entire facet of the game for everybody, which I think that is bullshit more so than like the doubling back on it for multiplayer and horde and stuff like that. No, that's the wrong thing.
And in my opinion, that's bad business. Okay, just straight up, I think that's bad business. And again, you know, like I said earlier, you're leaving a bad taste in people's mouth. I think that is also part of it. I don't think that is, you know, that should just never happen.
Smash Bros. Ultimate to wear the map editor, breaking the game and making dogs. Yeah, like that's what I feel like. If you had like something that was so loose as like the Forge editor, that's exactly what happened. The game would break because Gears is on a very set grid system. Bad business. Yeah, that's like out of everything that the game has done wrong, and the game is like, for all of its faults, that's what left a bad taste in your mouth. Is that really like is is making maps for multiplayer and horde, like, that is the thing that was the deciding factor on whether or not you bought the game?
In my opinion, and I understand, COVID happened and things like that, but come on, man. Yeah.
I don't think COVID played a role into them not doing it, though, because COVID was like at the very earliest 6 months after Gears 5 launched. It launched September of 2019, because it launched with the map editor. So unless they were planning to add it later on, I don't remember if that was a thing, and then it didn't happen because of COVID. I don't think that necessarily was the reason why. I know it's the reason why it took them a while to add tile sets, and then they ended up not really adding any at all. But that I don't think that's necessarily what the issue was.
Come on, like, it's 2024. Make it happen. All right, moving on to some of like the characters and stuff. Like at the very
I also
beginning,
love, this is a great like this guy, he's like negative shadows, where it's like, when you hear a shadows video or you're watching a shadows video, you can tell that he has a script in front of him, because you can hear the fact that he's reading it word for word off a script, and you could hear his brain processing it and reading it out loud like he's reading a book out loud. I love that for this guy, you could tell that he's doing the opposite, where he might have like a thing with like some bullet points, but he's just like, he's got like verses, and then he just talks. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. That's what I'm doing here on stream. I'm just talking without any specific direction or guidance here, but having the understanding or foresight. Fuck. I'm proving my point wrong right here. Having understanding and foresight of what you're going to talk about beforehand is very, very helpful. I'd need a script because I'd be scatterbrained if I made a video like this. Yeah, well, this is like even like doing this is me building up my skills for speaking aloud like this. Like, it's very, very rare that I'll do a video without a script, and you can tell. Like the Baron comic review was unscripted. I had an idea. I knew what I was going to talk about and what the major points I was going to go over were going to be, but I didn't have a script because I was kind of I didn't want to bother sitting down and writing a script and reading it out. I was just like, I'm just going to sit in front of the camera and do that. But it took me a long time of like doing this, where we sit on stream and I just sit here and I talk to chat and I respond to a video, of just sitting here talking, being able to understand how I think and convey that in a way that is recognizable to the human ears when it reaches you on the other side of the screen. It took me a long time to sit here and get used to that, so I could do that consistently, and now I could even do it sometimes in videos and stuff like that. I don't just go completely like, I want to talk about Mass Effect, and then just think whatever comes to the top of my head. I'll have like an idea, and then I'll get into it. But that happens very, very rarely for me. Some people need script, some need outline. This guy needs more script. I don't think it needs more script. I think he just needs more. He needs like a cohesive force or more like comprehension on the subject. I'm not saying that his opinions are invalid or anything. They just seem to be unsubstantiated. Like, he's saying stuff like, escape is dog trash or escape is dog shit. It's like, okay, why? You can have that opinion. That's fine. But like, do you have an explanation, or do you just think it's bad? There's nothing wrong with thinking it's bad, but there's a lot more value in thinking about and understanding why you think it's bad, or being able to express that to an audience rather than just going, it's bad. Okay? Elaborate, please. It would be really, really helpful to understand where you're coming from if you're able to elaborate on that point. Like what I was talking about earlier about Beast, how I think Beast is sort of the same thing every single time, and the map just sort of changes what it looks like. That's why I find Beast boring. But if I just sit here and I say, Beast is bad, it's dog shit, that doesn't really tell you anything. You need that, to dig a little deeper at that layer of nuance in order to get the actual whole point across. And if you don't sit to like think about it and understand where you're coming from with it. What your own, like, understanding where your own opinions are formed from outside of your, initial, reactive opinion. It makes a major difference in the way you approach it and come at it from.
Of this game, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was like actually 5 or 6 characters on each side that you could choose from. That's it. That is it, man. Like, tell me.
Yeah, that sucks for launch. I don't think that's necessarily a criticism for the game now. Gears 5, out of all the Gears of War games, has the largest number of character options and character skins, even if you exclude all of the bullshit promotional things like the New Day and Sarah Connor and the Terminator and Halo characters. Even excluding them, it has the highest number of character skins and the highest number of maps after a year. It took Gears of War 4 2 years to go through its whole content cycle and everything like that. Gears 5 basically just, had 1 year. It got most of its major updates out. 2, for the most part. I think it was 3 technically by the time they stopped supporting it. It was 2022, if I remember right. But Gears 1 started the limited cast. Yeah, it's not really that big of a deal to me because, like, Gears Ultimate Edition has a small cast. Gears 2 has a small cast. Gears 3, it's like there's a bit. But, like, by the first, year, 6 months or whatever, I think it's bullshit that we didn't have characters that were in Gears 4 in Gears 5 at launch. The fact that it took them like 2 years to add Dizzy and Ty and the Carmines, like, that's bullshit. Those kinds of characters should have been in the game at launch. I agree with that. But as it is today, if we're talking about Gears 5 in 2024, the character thing is not really that. It has more characters than any other game, and it has some of the best character skins in the entire series, if you asked me, from, personal standpoint. But, yeah.
I mean, like, realistically, does that make sense for a game that okay, so Gears 4 was released in 2016, right? It was 2016. Gears 5 was released in 2019. You're telling me that you came up with 6 characters in that amount of time? Come on, man. Like, bro, come on, man. Like, you got...
I mean, this also ignores the fact that a lot of the team that was making character skins and stuff was still working on Gears of War 4 for 2 years after 2016. But also, I mean, yeah, I agree that when it launched, it was really annoying that they, like, characters like the Carmines had to come 6 months later, or Dom had to come 6 months later, or Cole and Clayton, who, like, are in the campaign, have to come so much later. He's serious because he's smacking his hand. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like it's kind of like the same thing with the Escape. It's like, I understand where the issue is coming from and what the grievance is, but it feels like a very, very it feels like an odd thing to get pessimistic and have an issue with. You know what I mean? And it feels more like you're, like, fishing for something that gives you a reason to be upset with the game, because you were upset with the game in general, so you need to find all these things to nitpick in order to justify you not liking the game, instead of just being like, I don't like the game for some, like, foundational reasons that are plenty fine enough. You can not like Gears 5 because you don't like the art style. That's a valid reason to not like the game. You don't have to, like, go through and justify having, 100 different nitpicks that you don't like the game for. And it's something I realized, because I used to do this too. When I was on the Gears forums, I was like 17 years old, but, like, on the Gears forums in, 2019, when Gears 5 launched, I was right there with him. I was making threads every single fucking day being like, the announcers suck, the guns suck, the executions suck, the blood sprays suck, like, everything sucks, and being, like, super nitpicky about every single little thing. But it's like, those small details being, like, an issue, or having an issue with those small details, only matter because the larger, more foundational issues with the game are so bad. And I didn't have the wherewithal at the time to understand in my own right why I had an issue with those big foundational issues that I have now come to a point where I'm like, well, the gameplay has all of, X, Y, and Z issues. The control scheme, I have this issue with that. The way the mechanics in the sandbox of the game are set up, I just don't enjoy how that's put together. And all these other different things that, like, the stuff about blood sprays or executions or is like having an issue with escape or the announcer voices or stuff like that. I don't really care. Like, yeah, it can suck and I think it diminishes the experience, but like, even if you had really good, like, the reason why the foundational stuff is important is because if you had all of the skins that Gears 5 has now on launch, if you had Hoffman and fucking Mira as the announcers, if you had a art style that was a little bit more in line with the older games and stuff like that, or more in line with like E-Day as we've seen recently, the campaign would still be bad. The gameplay, in my opinion, would still be dated. Like, these issues are such at the core of the game that all of this tertiary extra stuff doesn't really matter. Because you could make it in your perfect, how you want it to be. That doesn't make it necessarily all that great. I've been having this issue with Space Marine 2, where Space Marine 2 is basically what, like, you would envision like a Gears of War game to be. Like, I like the feeling, I like the atmosphere, I like the feel, I like how the game plays. It feels good to play. It has good unlocks. It has good customization. It has all this really cool stuff. But these foundational issues of there's like no maps for the PvP. The versus enemies PvE, there's 7 missions. And as much as it's fun, it's the same 7 missions again and again and again and again and again. The campaign's fun. You can only play the campaign once. But like, there's these pitfalls in like the amount of content that is available that, especially for someone like me, I don't like the Destiny style, like the strikes where you have to, like, the only missions you have is like, it's the same thing. You just play it again and again and again and again. I hate that. And same with PvP. There's only like 2 modes, which I know we're talking about, like, you don't want to split it too much, but the fact that there's only 2 and there's only like 3 maps, it really fucking hurts the game. Because it's like you just get bored of it after a while. It's the same thing again and again and again. And it's like those foundational issues. Those issues cannot be fixed with a content update. Or, well, it would be content. But like a aesthetic update or an update to cosmetics and stuff like that. Like, I will bitch about the cosmetics in Space Marine 2. Like the fact that they gave Salamanders the sniper class. I know why they did it, because they want to give the sniper cloak with a Drake skin. But like, those issues, those small issues that I would nitpick and bitch about, I'm only like finding the reason to nitpick about them because those other foundational issues aren't being solved. So it's like, I'm upset with those foundational issues, so I'm going to go through and nitpick every other little thing that I also have an issue with and try to ascribe it to those issues because I'm not recognizing the foundational issues at the core of it that is the real reason why I'm not having fun with the game. And Gears 5 is the same way. It could have all the player skins. It could have the weapon skins you really wanted. It could have the art direction more in line with the game. Marcus could be the main character of the fucking campaign. It wouldn't change the fact that the team who wrote this story in the campaign did a bad job. They're bad at writing characters. I forget his name. Is it Tom Bissell? I might be forgetting exactly. That might be someone else. The guy who wrote the campaign, not good at it. In my opinion, not very good. You could almost objectively prove it. Some of this other stuff, the gameplay, the mechanics, the sandbox, it just isn't good at a foundational level. And even if you fix all of these little tiny nitpicks, it's not gonna matter because at the core, the foundation is wooden, and that wood is rotted and getting eaten alive by termites. So it doesn't matter if you don't like the wallpaper because give it long enough and the whole fucking house is gonna collapse. And you don't want to buy a house that's, on a shitty foundation to begin with. And it's basically where the whole issue lies. And like finding all these tiny little nitpicks, okay. These other little tiny nitpicks it just feels pointless to me at a certain extent when we're not addressing the real proper issues at the foundations of what's wrong with the game, at the very center of it all.
To give us a fighting chance at least. And we could talk about the whole marketing, situation and stuff that they, fell short on for Gears 5 as well. I'm not even going to really get into that because I know a lot of people don't.
Did the marketing fall short? I feel like the marketing was really strong when Gears 5 was on its way out. I mean, they got Evan Vesence to cover the chain. I feel like that was pretty big. I don't remember it ever feeling like it was falling short. I remember a lot of people were really critical of it because like everybody was in like their hate Fortnite era. So like the trailers that came out with like characters emoting and stuff got really negative attention. But I don't remember that anything about the marketing being necessarily like a misstep. But I mean, he's not going to delve into it anyways, so I guess we'll never know.
Don't want to hear that. But long story short, they did not market this game well. Straight up, they did not market this game well. But yeah, man, that was it.
It was Xbox's biggest launch for a Game Pass game. I feel like that's not marketing it unwell. Wouldn't that be a sign that the marketing worked to get people in, at least people that had Game Pass, to come in and play it? Reminds me a little bit of the quartering. They attack everything and hope some of the claims are right. Kind of. I mean, the quartering just fucking lies. Yeah, they lie or they nitpick like the smallest, most inane little things. And that's like, it's kind of, but it's like, it's the thing about like the quartering or like somebody who's like grifting is that they're nitpicking little things and they're, what do you call it? Picking out these tiny stuff that heavily credit to various characters. Maybe. I don't remember any of the trailers being really, really... is it like with the faces or whatever? I thought that trailer was fucking dope. Maybe it was me. That trailer turned me on to Billie Eilish. Like, but the whole thing of like a grifter like the quartering, and like the whole purpose of him lying and kind of like nitpicking every little thing is that he has an agenda. He has a narrative that he's trying to push, and he has to nitpick these things to align with his agenda. We saw that with Dr. Disaster last week, where he was like, here's this graph of mostly male players that play Switch. And it's like, the graph is from 2017. It's a poll of 60,000 people when there's 140 million Switches out there. So it's an incredibly small number of the player base. It does. Always. The Faces one. Yeah, I don't know why people hated that one. I really liked that trailer. I thought it was good at like kind of like showing like a really like trippy analog for how fucked up her mind is and stuff, you know? But where like quartering, I'm doing like two conversations at once. The quartering has that narrative or something to push, or Dr. Disaster has a thing to push, or Andy Pants is just fucking lying so he can say that women and gay people are bad. Icy is not doing that. I think he genuinely has issues with the game, or he dislikes the game. It's like I said, where it's like he dislikes the game, but he doesn't have the capability to digest and understand those foundational cracks that make him dislike the game. So instead of doing the introspection needed to figure out what those issues might be, he is more so going for the small things that he can identify, that the majority of people will identify because it's very on the surface. It's very the first thing that's presented to you, like the amount of characters that you can unlock at the start of the game. It's very obvious. It's right there in front of you. You can count it on your hands, you know? He's looking at those things and using those as a justification to fill in for why he doesn't like the game, rather than the complex and in-depth breakdown you would have to do to understand why you don't like the game at a more foundational level.
Characters on both sides or whatever it was, and just oh my goodness, bro, it was terrible. It was terrible, man. It was disheartening, and it was sad to see. Straight up, it was sad to see. Leading into that, we'll go into like the whole like ranked and competitive playlist, right? So this is something that I'm personally very passionate about, obviously. This is something that I truly believe, was I mean, it literally almost could not get worse than it is right now. Like, seriously, like, it really could not get worse than it is right now, I think. And I've played a lot of dead games. Like, I've tried to play H1Z1, like, and that game is completely dead. And I used to love that game, by the way. But I'm telling you, man, like, this is just so bad, man. It is so bad. Right now, okay, I want to ask you guys a very simple question. Right now, other than to have fun, right? Now, again, other than to have fun and play with your friends, what incentive do you have to get on right now and play ranked? What is it? Why? Why do you want to win the...
I don't. The play ranked one is a bit odd because I feel like playing the game in general should be good enough, especially for a game that's 5 going to be 6 years old this year. A lot of games don't live 6 years. Unless they have a super big competitive focus like Rainbow Six or Overwatch or something like that. Gears is not that type of game. And the fan base is not that type of fan base. The people who play Gears and play it daily, outside of the rare exception like Shadows or something like that, are not playing Gears to play ranked and play Rainbow Six at like the highest level and metagame about the different characters and your loadout and everything like that. They're playing Gears just like to play Gears. You know, that is the main core of like Gears' audience is very casual. Like, you don't want Gears to have like an upkept competitive fan base for years on end. You want them to have a big fan base, yeah. I think that's a bigger thing about how Gears is more, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's a very unique style of play. So that means outside of, no, they don't care about the competitive scene. Outside of very specific times, like when a game is fresh and new, Gears does not have like the kind of gameplay to keep people around. It's like For Honor. For Honor is a very unique game. It is a very hard game to get into today. If you're fresh and you've never played For Honor, you're going to have a fucking hard time playing the game today because most of the people still playing are people who've been playing since 2017 when the game launched and have been playing through every single rework and every single change and every single, you know, they know all of the specific little moves and everything you can do. Most of the people playing For Honor today are people who started with it and really like have enjoyed it and stuck with it because there's not a whole lot. For Honor doesn't have a ranked mode. There's basically 2 or 3 game modes for you to even play. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's got a smaller player base, but it has its very dedicated player base. It's just not the kind of game that attracts a wide audience because it's got a really, really unique and really, really different system. It's not like Apex or Overwatch or Rivals or Call of Duty, where all those games more or less play the same. You know, you point, you click, and you shoot. That's it for most of those games. Yeah, there's more in-depth stuff you could do with Rivals or Overwatch or Apex or COD. Yeah, but for the most part, somebody who rarely plays video games or rarely takes them very seriously can pick up that game, point, click, shoot, and kill a few people. Maybe even win a few matches. You know, maybe even win a battle royale in a game like Apex or Fortnite. Gears is not like that. Gears has a skill ceiling and quite a high one if you've never played the multiplayer before. Quite an intense game system that is very unique and doesn't play like anything else. There's very rarely cover shooters nowadays, let alone multiplayer cover shooters. Let alone multiplayer cover shooters where the main way people play is they, you know, ice hockey between cover with shotgun in hand, sliding at you until they make you explode. It is a very hard game to get into, especially if you've never played Gears before, especially if you don't know anyone that plays Gears, which is probably more than likely because a lot of people who play Gears tend to be on the older side of things, tend to have already played Gears. You're not finding a lot of people that are like into the game. Like a lot of people who play it are people who've been playing it, who like just enjoy Gears for what it is. There is no way that Gears is going to attract an audience that basically holds on to this game for 4, 5, 6 years at a time. That's just not going to happen. Unless something crazy changes in the gaming sphere where games like Call of Duty and Fortnite and Apex, like these really accessible games, kind of go out the window and people like get bored of them, Gears is not taking over that space at all. Maybe in 2008. Yeah, 2006, when there wasn't a lot of competition. In 2006, they competed with Call of Duty and Halo, and that was it. And between those three, yeah, maybe some people liked Gears of War more than they liked COD or Halo. I could see that happening. It's 2024. They're not competing with Call of Duty and Halo. They're competing with Call of Duty and Halo and Rivals and Overwatch and Fortnite and Apex and every single other game. They're competing with Space Marine 2. They're competing with older Gears of War games. There's still people playing Gears 3. There's still people playing Gears 4. There's still people playing Gears of War 1. You know, when E-Day comes out, there will still be people playing Gears of War 5. There is so much competition that for such a niche and specific type of game that Gears is, you're not getting the kind of domination that you would see in a game like Gears of War 1 in 2006, or Gears of War 2, or even Gears of War 3. Gears of War 3 was pushing it because games, especially online games, were getting more and more popular back then. As well as coming out the same year as Skyrim. That doesn't help. But there's so much on the market today, and Gears is so niche that you're not going to see like a major uptick in players or Gears hold on to its players for a very long time. Gears of War players will stick around and play it. And people who come into it and discover they like Gears of War will stick onto it and play it. There's more issues with the way I think the online space in the way that the multiplayer is balanced that I think could be fixed. But, I mean, that's why Gears 5 took a step towards even more casual gamers. It was trying to get in people who could pick up a gun, come in the game, point, click, kill, and maybe win a few games with arcade. That's not what Gears fans want. Gears fans, I mean, the people who do play multiplayer, not including competitive, people don't care about, like, it's like in a weird spot where it's like you either don't care about multiplayer at all and you're playing Horde or Escape or Beast Mode, or you care about playing multiplayer and you care about winning and you care about playing it as is, but you don't necessarily care. There's an even smaller number of people that care about competitive and also care about the esports at the highest level type of play. And most people fall either into no multiplayer at all or kind of multiplayer casual. And multiplayer casual for Gears is the Nasher, is something that's very inaccessible for a wider audience. And that's just not... I don't see that changing anytime soon. And the only way to change that is to make Gears more casualized, which, we know, Gears fans were not happy with that. They did not want Gears to become more casual. That did nothing but really hurt the game. At least for the not mainstream, for the long, the old guard, whatever, Gears fans that have been with Gears for a long time. And I just don't think that's going to change. Especially, like, going forward. Even with E-Day, the same thing will ring true.
The game. Other than your sheer passion.
And having rewards, like, if they didn't stop making skins and stuff, if they still had ranked rewards or they still had new skins and stuff coming out, I don't think that would change either. You're not going to get a whole bunch of people coming in to play the game for ranked rewards. That's just not going to change anything. Like, it's not... that's not helping your numbers or anything. That's probably why they stopped working on stuff when they did, outside of the fact that, you know, they lost so much leadership at the studios. But, like, the fact that what do you call it, they could probably see behind the scenes how much player base would uptick whenever they put out new content, and they're like, okay, we're getting diminishing returns for putting more time and effort into this game. It's kind of run its course. We'll just pull the plug and let it continue as is, you know, and the players that are there will be there, but we're not going to be drawing in any new players. People already have their opinion. They either like Gears 5 or they don't, and that's it.
Like, and desire to win. Why do you want to win the game? What happens if you win? Nothing. Also, it's a really odd argument when you're asking for, like, a mode like Beast to come back.
Sorry, but like mode like Escape has incentives for winning, where it's like the more you play Escape and the more you level up your classes, you're like working towards a goal of like completing all the classes, leveling them all up, and unlocking all the skills and making your abilities and stuff beefed up, and you have like that objective to work towards for every single class. Beast mode doesn't have that. Beast mode, you're just playing for the fun of the game. There's no objective. There's an objective, but like there's no nothing outside of the game mode that you get from playing the game mode. You get the Savage Theron Guard skin, but you only have to play a single match to get that. So otherwise, you're just playing it for the love of the game. So that whole bit earlier about like Escape sucks and Beast is good because it's just fun to play, I don't see why that's true for Beast mode and Escape mode, but not true for multiplayer here. See how the dots like don't align? It feels like we're back to we never left, but like it's like a sign that we're like nitpicking things and trying to come up with reasons for why those things exist or why those issues exist, but because we don't understand the foundation of why that's an issue to begin with, we're attributing the wrong symptom to the foundation as if it is the inciting incident and not a symptom of the foundation to begin with.
What happens if you lose? Nothing. Do you see the problem? There is no incentive to play or to win or to do well. There is nothing. There is no reason to play at all. That is a terrible... I can't even believe... Seriously, bro. Like, honestly, this is something I'm really passionate about. I truly don't understand. I don't understand. There was no ranking system, right? In the middle of the game, they brought in a ranking system, right? Masters was the highest rank. And then they took it out. Like, I want to understand it, and I need to, bro, because it doesn't make sense. Bro.
I do think that's more valid. Like, the fact that they, like, had that, like, kind of worse rank system. Then they had the ELO system, where it would tell you, like, how much you were gaining or losing ELO in between matches. And then they just scrapped it. I think they just didn't want to maintain it. They didn't want to put up with it. So they probably just switched to the leaderboard because it's like, it's easier to do that. And they don't have to worry about seasons and keeping up with it necessarily. It puts it into like a limbo mode, you know?
Why would I play the game? Why would I get on right now and play ranked for fun? Tell me why. Look at Call of Duty. This is just one game. League of...
And again, he's pointing at like symptoms, but it's like the reason they did that is likely because they stopped working on the game at all. And it's like, why continue this upkeep for a game you're not working on, that you're not supporting anymore, versus Call of Duty. Call of Duty puts out a new game every single fucking year. Of course, Call of Duty is still working on stuff because they have to, because they're putting out a game every single year. Gears 5 is not getting... We're not getting a Gears game every single year. We're not even getting updates to Gears 5 every single year. They've stopped supporting it. The issue here is not the fact that this game does it and this game does. It's the fact that this game's getting support and this game isn't getting support anymore. There's external, more reasons going on outside of, a binary A and B, but they can never be, any more than that.
Legends, Counter-Strike, the list goes on. Every game has a ranking system, bro. But just look at Call of Duty right here. Look at all these ranks. Man. Like, you have a reason to play. Now, whether it's good or bad, that's another story. But you have a reason to play. The top players, they can grind to get to top 250. Okay? They can grind to get top 250. They can get a custom skin. They can get a custom weapon skin. Come on, man. Come on,
also,
bro.
I don't think... You can still get the ranked rewards in Gears 5, can't you? I thought you could. If you rank up to, like, the however many in the leaderboard. If not, that kind of sucks. But, like, what's the difference here? You have a ranked system, because like the game is not getting support anymore. They're like not really doing seasons anymore. So it's like if you have like a top 500 players, those 500 players will just go to the top and sit there. because they're not supporting the game. They're not going to sit here and do, season resets every 3 months or something like that. So it's kind of just like a symptom of the fact that it doesn't exist anymore, I don't know exactly how you would solve that. If the thing is, if you want there to be like an unlimited ranked, I guess, would be the way to do it, where you don't put limits in ranked modes and you have this ranked season that never ends, but you always have the ability to play. And if you play enough, obviously, and you rank up, you'll get there eventually, and you'll be able to get your skins that you could work towards. I guess that's one way to do it, but I don't think you're not going at like the heart of the argument. You're like having an issue with the system and nitpicking it based on other games that are in a completely different circumstance from what Gears of War is currently, like the situation that Gears of War is currently in.
Not everybody is a casual player. People want to compete, man. People want to play for something. Now, I already backed up the casual side. I said...
Also, not everyone's a casual player. A lot of Gears fans are more casual than competitive, I would say. Like I said, Gears of War does not have nearly the same competitive scene as a game like Call of Duty has. It's not even nearly as big of a game as Call of Duty is. You're asking them to invest resources in a game that they're not supporting, in a game that's 5 years old, 6 years old, for a mode that a minority of the player base even interacts with. You gotta, this stuff does not exist in a vacuum. You have to understand where these systems are coming from. Now, I'm not saying that the Gears 5 ranked is perfect, or that they can't do stuff to fix it or improve it or do stuff about it, or try to appease it or work on a better system for the next game. But the standards of excellence here kind of feel slanted, Like if you took like a Ford F-150 and you compare it to a Prius, and you're like, the Ford F-150 can carry so much more weight. And it's like, yeah, the Prius isn't designed for hauling stuff, that's not what it's made for. That's not who the people who buy a Prius are not buying a Prius so that they can haul hundreds of pounds of concrete or whatever. Well, most people buying an F-150 don't buy it for that either. But the audience of people you have buying like a sedan are not the same kind of people buying a truck. The same kind of people that lift their truck are not the same kind of people that are driving their truck to work every day and actually use it for work purposes. To compare them on the same level when they have different audiences and they have different goals in mind for pleasing that audience is kind of missing the mark, because you're kind of comparing something in a scene that it doesn't really belong in. I don't think Gears should have ever tried to get into the competitive scene. It's not really that kind of game. Again, like For Honor. For Honor had a competitive scene. The only people who cared about For Honor's competitive scene were absolute hardcore For Honor players. The majority of people who played For Honor didn't play anything approaching a ranked mode. They just played it to have fun with it. You're not going to get that out of the regular kind of more casual audience,
We need this. We need that. Stop the microtransactions, right? I already went into that. Now I'm defending the competitive side and the aspiring pro players and the people who just like to compete in general, man.
I'm not going to lie. No disrespect to Icy. I know he's worked very hard, and it's a very cool thing to get on the Optic team and play for these competitive things. If your aspirations as a professional gamer in pro scenes and stuff is Gears of War, you gotta go back to career fair and rethink your opportunities. I agree, very informative, very helpful. We're talking about Gears 5 and the state of Gears of War 5 as a video game. I'm reacting to a video. This is Red Icy, who's a former player. He might still be on the team. I have no idea. He used to play for Optic Gaming in the Gears of War Pro circuit. But yeah, no disrespect to Icy. But if your aspirations as an esports pro player is Gears of War esports, Oh, sorry, man. I feel like that's not the way you want to go. Oh man. I feel like that's not. You should change your aspirations a little bit to be something that's more, I don't know, befitting of like that effort and expenditure from you. You know.
You know, like we have to have something to get on and try to win for. Like why are we trying to win right now? There is no reason.
No one plays Gears anymore, sadly. Yeah, it's like very. I mean, you can go back if you're on YouTube. Go back like. They've had an esports scene since 2016. Exactly my fucking point. This guy's here. He loved Gears of War 1 through 3. He didn't even know Gears of War had an esports scene. There's just not enough bite in the Gears of War community to demand a really hyper intense competitive scene in the same way that a game like Call of Duty or CS:GO or Apex have. Those games are completely built on their competitive scenes. Gears of War is the opposite. The competitive scene is leeching off of Gears of War as it is. If you want my, I'm not going to repeat it. If you want my big take on why Gears of War, nobody really plays Gears of War anymore, like go back like 20 minutes. I was ranting for a little bit there. Somewhere in there, I think. If you're watching on YouTube, it should let you rewind the stream. Unless you want to stay here. You know, watch it later.
It doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense. The maps are dog shit. The game modes suck.
Okay, again, we're back to saying stuff's bad, not giving an explanation. The maps are dog shit. I kind of agree with you for some of the Gears 5 maps, but do you know why? Do you have the explanation of why? I think Panahu is a bad map. I think it's bad because there's a lot of dead space. There's a lot of focus on Lancer fire and stuff like that. A lot of the early maps definitely suffer from that trope where it's like there's a lot of focus on these big Lancer heavy spots where it wants you to play the game like you're shooting with a rifleman. But many people who don't who play Gears of War multiplayer are not playing it for Lancers. They're not playing arcade mode. They're playing King of the Hill. They want to run it with Nashers. That map just doesn't work for it. In the same way like a map like Dry Dock or Foundation does. He wants Gears of War to be one thing, doesn't understand the culture behind it. Yeah, there's a lot more. It's not the fact that like Gears of War is a video game with a pro scene, and Call of Duty is Call of Duty is not a Gears of War game. Call of Duty is a video game with a pro scene. So therefore, if Gears of War copies everything Call of Duty does, that they're just going to be all right. They're not. That's not how that works. Gears of War is a much different video game with a much different audience, with a much different style of gameplay and the kind of things they like and the things they want from the game than Call of Duty. Not to mention esports. I figured Icy would know this. Esports is like incredibly expensive, and I feel like Gears just doesn't have the money for it. Panahu is the worst map in the series. Yeah, it's such a wild. It looks like one of the maps I would have made in like the Far Cry 4 map editor when I was 12. You know, like it's just not designed well. Even if it wasn't a Gears game, that map on like a Call of Duty game or like a Halo game would be equally as bad. It's just a really like weird layout that doesn't really work for anything. Gears is not esports compatible, so clunky, very much arcade shooter. Halo is more competitive, but depends on the Halo. Gears all plays the same fluff. Kind of. I don't think it's so much that it's clunky, it's just that it's so... the reason it doesn't work as a competitive thing, I'm basically just dialing down what I said earlier, is because it's so much more niche and complex for new players that nobody can get into Gears and become really good at it in a month. Unless you're absolutely trying to be the best at Gears and you're absolutely trying every single day, you're not picking up Gears casually, getting good at it, and then being like, oh, I really like this game, I'm going to get good at it, competitively good at it. That's just not happening. That's not happening with enough people, at least, for it to be a reasonable take. Versus a game like Call of Duty, you can pick up Call of Duty. I can pick up Call of Duty. I don't even really like the COD series, but I could pick it up, be decent enough at it to where like I'm like topping the leaderboard, getting MVP, and being like, maybe if I put a little bit more time in this, I can play competitively and have a decent shot at like, ranking up and getting into some higher ranked tiers and stuff like that. Call of Duty is a really easy game to get into. It's one of the biggest fucking games on the planet. It is literally so simple mechanically that so many FPS games have taken the entire Call of Duty bread and butter to use for their own. Gears of War, there is not a single other game on the market that plays like Gears of War. There just isn't. It is not a game you can just pick up and play. You can pick up and play it at slower paces, like the campaign. Many people could pick up the campaign and have fun with that because the campaign is a much different experience to the multiplayer, the versus. But it's not. You can't just have that same influx of players that have never touched it before come in and enjoy it. It's just not built for that.
Straight up, man. Like, ranked or the competitive playlist, whatever, it should be only the maps that the professional players have in the cycle, in the professional cycle.
I also think that's really dumb. Saying that like you need the opinion of professional players for something to be good for professional play. I'm not saying to like completely disregard the opinion of people who obviously put a lot more time and effort into this game than I do, but being really good at a game doesn't mean you have the understanding of what makes a map good or bad. Like I was talking about earlier in the stream with like CGI. You don't need to be a computer engineer to look at bad CGI and go like, that's bad. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm like a, level 100 mafia boss level designer either. But I can look at Panahu and be like, that's a bad map. But it would also try to, what they do, Ninja, kind of. It's like, what do you call it? The maps that are good or are like mid, even I wouldn't have the understanding without like sitting down and trying to break down different choke points and different channels and passageways, what makes them good and or bad compared to other maps. And as much as I think, pro gamers might have more of a feeling for which maps play better or worse, I don't think that it's good for studios to treat their word as gospel. The studios should have good level designers and should know what a good or a bad map is. They should know to not design a bad map like Panahu from the get-go. They shouldn't even come to the table. But I don't think listening to esports players as gospel works either, because they might not even have the just because they're good at the game doesn't mean they have the understanding to tell you why a map doesn't even work to begin with. We've been talking about this whole video. I've stretched out. This is a fucking 23-minute video. We've been here like an hour and a half. Just because it is, somebody who's good at the game doesn't mean he has the ability to sit here and explain in comprehensive detail what those issues are and how they affect the game experience as a whole,
For those of you guys who don't know about that, there are specific maps and specific game modes in the professional play. Okay? You can't go outside of that. That's just, it is what it is, right? You got execution, you got control, you have escalation. That's it. Okay? I don't agree with all three of those game modes, I'll be honest with you, but let's just say I did. That means the ranked playlist for Gears 5 right now should be execution, escalation, and control, all combined into one. You load into a game, it gives you a random map, and that's it. You don't have a fucking choice. You don't get to leave and dissolve the game 24/7. None of that. Like, literally, none of that, bro.
Again, a lot of the issues he's complaining about would suck for a game that is current and active. Gears of War is not an active game. They stopped support for it 3 years ago now. This is just not an issue that's going to be fixed or addressed. It's just the symptoms of a game that is basically only being played by the people who've continued to play it for 6 years now. They have no interest in building a competitive scene or a scene of any kind. Why would they? I get that it sucks if you really want to play competitive. I understand the sentiment that's coming from this. It's like really bad for competitive play, but like they're not putting the time and resources into anything Gears 5 related. Why would they put the time and resources into cradling and playing to the wants of this very specific, very niche subculture of competitive players within Gears of War 5? It just doesn't make sense, like, from a business standpoint. You know, you're talking about them earlier going back on the map creator as, like, that's bad business. Well, it's bad business to go in and, like, micromanage this game mode that is played by a minority of players that some players don't even know exist. And, you know, spend all the time and effort and money on that rather than, you know, working on E-Day or working on other projects that are more prescient to the team.
That's it. And if you want to play other maps and you want to play other game modes and you want to have fun and do your thing,
I also will. It's like a personal thing for me. I could feel the passion coming from him. Right, his voice is like it sells that very well. It's gonna sound really mean, but like if you're. I get why he's this passionate, because he was playing Gears esports and stuff, and he would probably like to be doing that and playing in Gears esports, like championships and stuff again. And maybe, hopefully, he'll get his wish when E-Day comes out. But like, if you have this much, I don't think they deleted it, the escape map editor, because nobody used it. I think they deleted it because it was too costly for them. Which I guess, yeah, you could say that like it was too costly because nobody's playing the game and nobody's spending money on it, so therefore why? But yeah, but because it was too costly, not because nobody was necessarily using it. I think there was nobody using it from launch because it was very limited. But like, I can understand why he wants there could be a competitive scene for somebody who used to play in like the super competitive pro circuit. But like, you could tell that he's got like a lot invested into it. I could definitely understand why. It is kind of funny. Like I was saying earlier, like if your ambition is to be a Gears of War pro player, you should probably point your ambitions elsewhere, because I don't think it's not the end all be all, and also it's not going to be anything that ever takes off in any meaningful way. The Gears of War pro system, Gears 2 has a photo mode? What the fuck? Exactly. But like, the Gears of War is never going to have a pro scene that looks anything like Call of Duty or Siege or anything else, you know? It's just not. It's never going to happen.
that is completely fine. There needs to be incentive to play those other game modes and those other maps outside of the ranking thing. Like, it is not fucking rocket science, bro. It is 2024.
Again, this was 2024. Now it's 2025. The game hasn't had support for 2.5, 3 years. I feel like that should be all the information you need to understand why the competitive scene is not bumping in November 2024. I feel like that's fairly self-explanatory. I don't like running defense for Gears 5. It's got plenty of issues. I understand where the grievance is coming from. But if you understand why this issue you're having exists and understand the foundation of why you have this issue with the game, it makes a lot more sense. Just saying.
Why am I even saying this? I am seriously not understanding that. Why do I have to say this? Man. Okay.
That's how you know he's not in a script. Damn, I feel bad. Like, you could hear that. that was such a defeated sigh. Oh man, I feel. Oh man, like I say, I understand the grievance. That pause, that was the loudest sigh I've ever heard in my fucking life. That was insane. I don't think I've heard somebody, dude. I feel like my dad just looked at me and said, "I fucking hate you." That was such an intense sigh. Oh man, that sucks, man.
Some other things, right? We'll move forward. Some other things, man. The servers fucking suck. Okay? Now, part of that, I'll be honest with you, is because the servers have been sitting there since 2019. That is part of it.
So you understand that the game is old and it's not getting supported and the servers suck. Also, Gears of War is kind of known for having bad netcode and bad servers. I've had experience with that in Gears of War forever. I actually feel like Gears 5 is the game I've had the least amount of issues with. When the game launched, there was definitely a lot, especially like trying to do co-op, horde mode, or campaign or whatever. It would have a lot of issues, but in the last 2 or 3 years that I've ever like tried to load it up and kick around with it, I feel like I've never really run into issues with it.
Problem. Okay, so, they need to, upgrade them. They need to, take care of them. They're not. The game has not been updated, by the way, just so you guys know, because a lot of people don't actually know this. The game has not been touched. It has not been updated. It has not been anything in 3 years.
Okay, so you understand they stopped supporting the game. You can have an issue with the fact that they stopped supporting the game. A, the game's not making money. They're not going to support a game that's not making money. B, if you understand that they're not supporting the game and they're not working on it and they're not updating it and they're not adding stuff to it, why do you expect that like stuff like the competitive scene would still be alive 3 years after they stopped supporting it? This is not like a new thing. Like, I guess maybe if it doesn't, it might not make sense as much because like we went from, Gears 1, like every other Gears game has stopped being supported. But like, I could see where it might be like confusing because like, it's very rare for games to just stop being supported. There's so many, like, live service is, like, the standard here. And I think that's probably where he's coming from, is he expects live service to be the standard. But it's like, not every game gets supported for a decade. The games that get supported for a decade are making money, and a fuckload of it. Gears of War 5 didn't make a lot of money, mainly because they did, to their credit, drop a lot of their predatory monetization strategies very early on in the game's lifecycle, which was good for the player base. I mean, for the the loyal player base. It's not good for the longevity of the game. They can't justify updating a game that is already $60 to get in, for a long time. TF2 Overwatch 2, yeah. But it's like a game either makes money and it continues to make money, and it keeps getting updates because it is continuing to make money, or it's Lawbringers, and it makes no money, and it crashes and fucking burns. Gears 5 is kind of in the middle. It made enough money to justify its existence, and its continued existence. It has not made enough money to justify more expansive and comprehensive content updates. That's just how it is, I could see where you might like get confused because like Gears 4, it didn't get content updates until Gears 5. It got updates until like the October before Gears 5 launched, so like just under 10 months before, so it kind of felt like it got support all the way through. But like going from Gears 4 to Gears 5, I could see how the logic follows where you like expect Gears 5 to be supported all the way through until Gears 6 or Gears 8A. Again, this is where the context and knowing the background stuff matters, because Gears 5 and all of the massive managerial staff on the game, the director, the game director, different leads, the PvE director, like lead or whatever, the PvP lead, all gone. Most of Gears 5's senior leading management has been gutted, or the coalitions was gutted after Gears 5. That's why they concluded the game so shortly after, and why we didn't get a Gears 6. They rebuilt the entire studio, remade it, started switching gears, to a new project that is now Gears of War E-Day. If we did not have those massive changes and switch ups in the leadership staff of the coalition, we would not be getting Gears E-Day. I believe that with my entire chest. They're doing Gears E-Day for the same reason they did Gears of War Ultimate Edition. You have a new team with a lot of new people who are not familiar with Gears. This may be their first Gears game they're working on. They may have had some experience, but not a whole lot. So now they're going back to form so that this new team can get experience with what people expect out of a Gears of War game. But instead of doing a remaster like they did before, they're just doing a new game that is more kind of like a spiritual successor to the older games. So that way this new team can go from that to doing something new in Gears of War 6, and it won't just be, they're stepping in brand new fresh, which is weird because that's kind of what Gears 5 feels like. But it sounds like he isn't as in the know. That's what I'm saying. It's like the context and everything around it. And that's what I was saying earlier about like the maps and stuff. Like just because you're really good at the game, you could be damn fucking amazing at the game, top 10 players of all time, and be on every single pro team. That doesn't mean you understand how it's, you still got to know how the sausage is made. You still got to understand the stuff going on behind the scenes that really dictates a lot of things that you might not think of initially off the top of your head. Or, off the boat, whatever the fuck you want to say it. Like it doesn't translate. It doesn't translate, oh, you're really good at the game, therefore X, Y, and Z. That's just not how that works. Knowing this stuff, this context that it runs behind the scenes that you would never know unless you went out of the way to find it or look into it, or things like that. Most of the people playing Gears, obviously, the competitive players are not looking at the developers and directors and teams behind these games. Claiming a fast food cooker understands how 5-star cooking is like. Not really. I think it's more so like somebody at McDonald's thinking that they know how to grill burgers because they work at McDonald's. I'm not saying that they wouldn't, obviously, or like what what grilling really like entails. Like there's more to it than like just cooking it, basically, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot of things you have to do, especially if you're cooking from like scratch. If you have ground beef, or if you have a steak. Turning a steak into burgers is not the same as making a burger at McDonald's. I'd assume so. I don't believe they grind their own meat and turn it into patties. I would more than not believe that they just get them frozen and put them on a press machine, something like that. But it's like, just because you do that at McDonald's doesn't mean you can turn a steak into ground, beef patties into a burger, Well, yeah, every fast food chain is known for quantity over quality. That's why they're fast food.
Almost 3 years it's been, guys. It has not been touched. No changes to the shotgun. No changes to the movement.
It stopped getting support. I feel like this is not... Do you know that... I wonder if he knows that they said they're going to stop supporting the game. Or if he just thinks that TC ghosted the game. Like there was one day that TC said, we're just going to stop supporting it, but we're not going to tell anyone. Okay, guys? And they've just like gone silent for the last 3 years. But they said very loudly, multiple times, hey, we're going to stop supporting the game. No more content, no more skins, no more anything. The leaders, the teams are gone. Ryan Clevin does not work on tuning the Nasher every single week. He hasn't done that for quite some time. Not subtle. Yeah, it's not. I feel like if you like understand the basics of like them, of like what it means to not be supporting the team, this would make more sense.
No changes to the maps. Speaking of maps, you could load in right now to a ranked control match, right? On Ritual, for an example. And the weapons on that map, they will fluctuate from game to game. If you load into the game on Ritual, ranked control, the power weapons on ranked control Ritual will be different half of the games.
Yes, because every map has 2 different layouts of weapons, and control is a 1-round mode. So by flip of the coin, you're going to get one loadout sometimes and the other loadout the other half of the time. You could say you don't like the design, like you want it to be more consistent for like a competitive game. But again, Gears at its basis is not competitive. Competitive doesn't mean fair, by the way. You could have teams that are unfair and still be competitive. Like, that's kind of how Marvel Rivals is set out. Not every tank in Marvel Rivals is built the same. I feel like this is Gears of War 101. I feel like it's odd to be such a high-ranked Gears player and not understand why this is a thing. That's probably like the oddest one to be hit.
That doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense.
Every single Gears of War map ever, except for in Gears 1 when they didn't have a lot of guns, but like ever since they've been swapping out for multiple loadouts on each map, I feel like this has been a thing since always.
Like, what the fuck is going on, bro? I'm sorry. I'm being honest. What is going on? Not to mention, man. Not to mention the second accounts, the Smurfs, 24/7. I'm a professional.
Every single game is Smurfs. It's not being monitored, you know. They're not really putting a whole lot of effort into people smurfing or not. I don't even know if the channels are open for you to go in and put in tickets for like cheaters or anything like that. But that's the thing that exists in every single game. It sucks, but like Gears has not been supported for 3 years. Of course it will.
Player, okay.
There's no ranked mode. Why would Smurfs matter? Also, if there is no ranked mode, why do Smurfs matter? It's not like they're a really high player playing at a low rank. You're a fucking professional player. Even if you were split into ranks, how does smurfing is an issue for people that aren't good at the game because they're like in a low skill lobby getting put up against like really high skill players. You're one of the highest skilled players in the entire player base. This is not an issue. Not to say that it can't be an issue, or it's not an issue. It's not an issue that affects you. I know it's not an issue that affects me. So it's definitely not something that affects you.
I would technically, in theory, be the piece of shit that's smurfing, right? But I don't. And I'll be honest with you, man. It's not even like I don't really care. But the problem is a lot of these smurfs are either cheating, like they're literally hacking, which is a whole nother thing.
Oh wow, he does have a list. Cheaters, 3 years, no update. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, just because you're a higher ranking player doesn't mean you have the comprehension to break down why systems are what they are and being able to extrapolate your grievances with it to an audience, or to expand on your beliefs. Mixing control schemes.
They're literally cheating, right? Or they just made the account and they're just trying to be annoying. There's a lot of groups of people on M&K, mouse and keyboard, that go around and intentionally be annoying on second accounts. They're racist. They say crazy shit all the time in game chat. Nothing happens because the game is...
That sucks, but like, look at Call of Duty Black Ops 2. There's so much... You cannot load into a public game without running into some crazy bullshit because the game is not supported. Like, it's just... It sucks. And they should probably put some more effort into stopping, especially the really grievous ones. Like Titanfall 2 had that issue on consoles forever. And putting a stop to most of like the worst offenders. But, Yeah, that's like you kind of get that in every multiplayer game. I don't. Not that I don't think it's an issue, but I guess I'm finding issue to understand a reason to care about it more than any other game. I'm not a super high competitive player though, so maybe I just don't have the perspective that makes it a serious issue for me.
Not been touched in 3 years. That's how it goes. It's crazy. It's fucking diabolical almost. It's actually insane. Okay.
We're gonna
wrap this up, guys. We're going to wrap this up here. I'm getting a little bit too heated here.
How you tell,
the
man?
last couple things that I'll say here is,
he's just reading off the script. He doesn't even have gameplay anymore. He's just reading off his notes page.
mechanics of Gears 5, and I'm not going to argue with you guys about this.
So
man.
this will be interesting too, because I've been talking about mechanics and being able to comprehend and understand how mechanics play into the work, into the game, and how the game works. He's talking about mechanics. He's talking about them. The interesting thing for me here is going to see if he actually has, if he's going to try to make it so that his explanation of the mechanics fits into a diegetic form, or if he's just going to say this mechanic is bad, this mechanic is bad, this mechanic is bad, this mechanic is bad, this mechanic is not fun, this mechanic is bad, and if he just sort of goes along it like that. It'd be really interesting to see how he approaches it from that perspective.
Just going to fire him off, and that's it. You guys can leave a comment if I miss anything, or if you disagree, or whatever. The knife lunging, disgusting, absolutely insane. Knifing should not be in the game. It needs to go back to meleeing, and there needs to be not some fucking auto-aim, lock-on shit that you can knife people across the map and through the wall. There is shit that happens when people press B that does not make logical sense.
I've never seen someone knife through the wall. This one I agree with. I don't think Banana wants to spend the time helping him with that. This is the thing I agree with. I think the universal melee is fucking boring. It takes away the depth of like some melees being special, like the torque bow or the retro. I agree with having it on certain weapons, like the Lancer or whatever, where you don't necessarily, like, it doesn't have like an integrated melee function in the weapon. Like the weapon doesn't have like a literal bayonet. The Lancer has a bayonet, but it's not a bayonet you punch with. It's a chainsaw. And stuff like that. I agree with the knife. As far as it being like a slide or anything like that, Hudson was mentioning you in chat. The slide or whatever, I've never seen somebody knife someone through walls. It wouldn't surprise me. We used to have like Silver Surfer and a lot of weird bugs at the beginning of the game, but I can't speak too much on the distance. I've never seen the knife used or necessarily like it's never been like abusive in any time I've seen it used in a game.
The next thing is a slide distance. The distance in which you can wall bounce in this game, it hurts my stomach. It hurts my fucking stomach. Mixing control schemes, playing defaulternate. Have you guys heard that? Defaulternate? That should not exist. Okay, I'm not gonna argue with you guys. Just straight up, it shouldn't.
So, thank you for saying your opinion on why you don't think the different control schemes should exist. Can you explain why? Because as somebody who's never really fucked around with the control schemes, I don't know what the issue of having different control schemes would be. And if you just say it's bad, like again earlier with Beast Mode, if you just say it's bad and don't elaborate, it doesn't really help in any way.
Exist. Sliding backwards, sliding sideways, sliding backwards, diagonal, fucking upside down. Stupid as fuck. Okay, the mechanics of this game are legitimately broken, and it makes no sense. It is almost impossible to play defensively because of the way that the shotgun is balanced, in terms of also how the movement is. Like, it is almost impossible to play defensively in this game unless you hit every single pellet and don't shoot early and don't shoot too late. Like, you got to be perfect. When you're playing aggressively, you don't have to be perfect because you can just up A into somebody, or you can just, back A, air back A, fucking wall bounce, pop shot, boom, boom, boom. Like, life is great when you're just moving and shooting, bro. I promise. What else? Airbacking, if you guys don't know what that is, it is when you're literally about to slide into somebody's cover, you stop in midair and shoot at the same time, and there's no it's within the same frame. Like you can't really stop it. Shooting while bouncing, I just said that. What else?
I find the too easy overall thing, like the casualization of Gears 5, to be an odd complaint. When a lot of these issues, I'm not familiar with them because I don't play at a high enough skill, at least in Gears 5, I'm not playing at a high enough skill ceiling to interact with them. You know? Like, these are mostly like exploits or stuff you could take advantage of that are annoying, that I can understand that they are annoying or are, a lot to put up with. But I feel like they're only allowed to put up with if you're playing at a certain level, which obviously this guy is. I'm not. But to have all of these grievances with exploits and stuff that you could take advantage of at high levels of play, and then say the game is too easy. It's unless he means like it's too easy to do the exploits. Listen to say continue on, but if he just means like it's too easy in general, that's you're saying like the opposite thing. You're like literally speaking in hyperbole.
Overall, like the game is just too easy, man. Straight up, the game is too easy. Everybody's good at it. The bullet magnetism.
Okay, so he's just saying it's too easy. So he's talking about these exploits and these things you can do that are, and in my experience, I don't know how to fucking do that shit. It's at a level of skill higher than I play at, and I play at a, probably higher than average skill level when it comes to Gears. Can you proofread this? No, you can very much tell this is like coming off the top of his head, but these feel like antithetical statements.
The cover system doesn't work. You can shoot people in covers. You can wrap shot. You can shoot over a cover. You might as well shoot through a fucking cover. You got FMJ on your shotgun. I don't even know if you guys knew that. You have FMJ through your shotgun. You can literally shoot people through a fucking wall. If you guys don't believe me, go to my last Gears video, and you'll see me airback somebody through a wall down a staircase. I'm heaven sent, I guess. Very simple. What else, man? Mouse and keyboards, extremely overpowered. That is, again, I'm not arguing with you guys. It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. People say like the movement of this game is like too slow and too like lethargic, but in reality, it's actually too fast, given how the mechanics of the shotgun work and the fact that you can't play defensively. So that's going to be it today, boys. I genuinely have no desire to actually get on and play this game currently, but I really felt like I needed to get this off my chest and kind of open the eyes and, hopefully the hearts of other people who are not really, in line with this way of thinking. So if you guys are, new to the channel or whatever, please hit that like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And for those of you guys who have been here for a while, I love you guys, man. I'm really
I didn't know that when you said subscribe, the little subscribe button lights up for you. That's cute.
Trying to be that voice for you, man. I know how much this game means to you guys. It means a lot to me as well.
Now, okay. So, at the end of this, I've been saying it a few times. I agree with a lot of his grievances, obviously disagreed with the ones I disagreed with, but I understand the sentiment for the majority of this video. And coming at the very end, saying I want to be the voice that could say this kind of stuff for you guys. If I had to give one piece of criticism to Red IC here today, find out, sit down with your thoughts, put down if pencil and paper if you have to, draw lines, keep asking why until you get to the very, very, very bottom of every single issue you have with the game. If you don't like how competitive is played, ask why. And it's like, well, I don't think it's as good as the competitive in this other video game. Why? Well, because the issues that Gears has, this other game doesn't have. Well, why? Well, because the player base to this other game is a much different type of player base to the player base that Gears has. Why? Because Gears is a very niche game. Why? Because there's a very specific type of gameplay affixed to this series that draws in a very specific type of player and is not very approachable to casual people to come in, learn it, and get into it. You know, if you ask why enough, it will help you boil down the things that you are having an issue with, but it'll help you find the actual root, the actual foundational damage to the structure, and not just be pointing at like a broken window. A broken window is easy to see. It's also an easy fix. That's not the reason why the house is like falling into a sinkhole. The sinkhole is the reason the house is falling apart. You know, broken window, you know, a fucked up door, maybe your oven's not plugged in. These are all issues that are not that big of an issue. It's a nitpick. It's something that you're pointing to that is a very, very easy extrapolation of like, it's evidence that the game has issues. And you're pointing to that evidence as like, this is why the game has issues or is bad. Here's evidence of issues that the game has. But if you leave it there, you're ignoring the foundation. You're ignoring the stuff at the bottom of the barrel, at the root, that you'd have an issue with. And you're never going to get to the actual causes that are causing you grievances. And that's for Icy and basically anyone. If you are ever like making introspective content or content that is like critical of something like, you know, Gears 5. Obviously, there's a lot of good reasons to be critical of Gears 5. I found this to be a lot more like nitpicking at the windows because the foundation is rotten, but we don't know how to test for the foundation, so we're just going to point out the broken windows. And this kind of goes, again, for anyone, if you're ever making anything, if you're ever like putting something together, if you're ever criticizing something, if you're pointing at the windows, you're never going to solve the foundation. You're never going to understand that the foundation has shifted, and that's what you really have an issue with, you know? So learning how to introspect and think inwardly on how those things affect you at a greater scale at the foundational level, rather than something more esoteric, will really help basically figure out what the actual issues you're running into are, rather than, you know, small things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, that like you could fix all those windows. The foundation is still fucked. You know, it's still going to come down because at the core of it, it is still bad. It still has those issues. Those issues aren't going away. And if you don't solve those issues, if you don't point out those issues, you know, there's nothing to be solved. Like the whole, the stuff I've talked about before with like the Swarm. The Swarm are like badly designed. Okay, well, why are they badly designed? Well, I don't think they fit the vibe that they're going for. They kind of feel like knockoffs of the Locust, or they feel like knockoffs of like sci-fi alien monsters in general. It's like, okay, why? Well, whoever's designing them is not designing them with like an intense purpose or an intense like a creativity that is informing their decisions of how they're designed. It's like, why? Well, you go and you look at the interviews of the developers or the narrative directors, and when they are asked why they have included or excluded certain enemies, or, you know, created or brought back certain enemy types, their reasoning is, well, because we felt like it. Because we felt like it is not a good reason to design anything, especially a monster, you know. Because I felt like it, sometimes it works, right? Sometimes. Not always, you know. There has to be more purpose to it, and that purpose can help influence. They look like shrimps from the back. Yeah. If you have that purpose driving your creativity or your thoughts or your train of thought in general, that purpose will help inform everything you do, and everything you do will be built on a more solid foundation. There's a couple of, I would look at, this is a very, very small example. Hold on, let me grab them. Oh, this is the first time I stood in 4.5 hours. Now, this is a very, 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 very disconnected example. But I'm going to show you something and show you how having a internal train and having that reasoning behind your choices make your choices feel and make the things you're designing or breaking down or interviewing or reviewing, whatever, have more purpose to them and they feel more fleshed out. This goes for creative endeavors. This goes for reviewing, like with this guy's video, and all that fun stuff. Hold on, let me get rid of this. We don't really need this. We don't really need that either. Hi, guys. Look at this. This is a Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormcast Eternal. A big knight dude, right? Black steel armor, red clothes, blue cloak. One that I painted. Now, my modus operandi, my reasoning, my excuse for painting them how I do, that is reflected in the infantry that I've painted. These guys, these little smaller dudes. I know the lighting's bad. You can't really see it. The internal decision-making that I've decided on is that characters that are important, they all have like this black steel with red accents. That's how the entire army is designed and painted. My hat's fucked up and it's going to keep annoying me. They all have this black steel with red accents. And then I've decided that characters that are important, that are like lieutenants or captains or whatever have you, have the blue. You can see this guy's less important. He's got red. This guy is important. He's got the blue. And then you have like a main character like this. I mean, they have red and blue, but this guy's, he's got the red and then he's got the big blue. And that tiny, tiny thing of important characters wear blue frames every single decision I make when painting that entire army. And it's such a small detail. And in the grand... I'm gassy, I don't know why. In the grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily an important detail. It's something that like ties them together visually, but it doesn't necessarily change anything. They could have no blue whatsoever, and it wouldn't necessarily change anything about the army, but it directs the way that I paint and the way they're organized in a way that is cohesive and bound together in a more put together way. Like it's intentional, intentional choices, intentional reasoning, intentional logic that follows through the whole way. And it's just something super small like that can have an incredibly big and major difference to everything you do. Whether you're trying to break something down or, create something new or whatever. Having those layers and steps of logic really helps to sell something, whether to yourself or to other people. Damn, I was looking to see if there was anything more recent that was different, to say the least. It was a very, very, very different stream tonight. Let me close that tab. But, I mean, either way, thank you to everybody who's been here. This is probably going to be it. This is a 4.5 hour stream. Not bad. Thank you to everybody who came in, said hi, chatted. There was one, Adam Georgia. If you're still here, thank you very much for the $5 super chat earlier. That was very surprising. I'm always very, very, very thankful to see stuff like that. You don't, as you probably realized, don't feel like you have to donate or anything to get my attention to like ask a question. Just ask a question in chat. The donation, like if you want to donate money or anything like that, that is exclusively because you feel like it, because you like want to. I'm never going to, at least anytime soon, I'm never going to make it to where like you have to, donate to get my attention or anything like that. I try to be a good boy and talk to my chat. Yes, you too, Banana. Everyone have a great weekend. We'll see you Saturday next week, 9 p.m. Central. I'm forgetting my whole fucking thing. I need to go to bed. Thank you, everybody, for being here and watching. Stay cool. Have fun. Be awesome. And I'll see you next weekend.